one thing. Oh my God.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our first watch party. This is for UFC 306, aka Noche UFC. I'm Luca Fury, joined by Liam Heslin, as well as Balboa. He'll have at least an avatar, if not himself, in the future. But we're going to be live here for the top now 4 fights. Originally was planning on being the top 3, but they took a little bit to get going. So right now we have Zellhuber and Ribovic going. It's near the end of round 1. So real quick, as I guess while the round is about to expire, we'll be a bit quiet here in terms of the intros and stuff. We'll just give our analysis, but we'll do some plugs and stuff in a little bit here. I'll start first with you, Liam, though. Thoughts on this round so far?
It's been a great round. As we were getting loaded up here, we saw a pretty big land by Ribovic, and it kind of pushed Zellhuber back, but otherwise Zellhuber's been doing quite well. We kind of came in the middle of this fight, so I'm curious what Balboa thinks. I think he's had a tighter eye on this fight.
Yeah, can you guys hear me well?
Sorry. Yeah, you sound pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I am watching this fight from the beginning, and I'm seeing the left jab land from Zellhuber like crazy right now.
One thing that worries about me is I mentioned this in my pre-fight breakdown too. When you look at his striking defense, he does basically the same thing where he just only puts up one arm, and then it's actually kind of what Gilbert Burns was doing recently. One arm up, and then the other arm just straight out.
Yeah, he's doing that actually right now too.
That's what I'm saying. He's been doing it all first round, and that's part of that tall man defense I hate from him. That's cost him before. He just never adjusts.
The 8-inch reach right here is just playing itself out. It's kind of insane. Zellhuber is actually insane at distance.
Massive lightweight.
I want Ribovic's like KO and like live, but man, you just can't. You just can't do it. You gotta have Zellhuber decision right here all day. See, if Zellhuber wants to sit here and brawl like this, don't do that. Do not do that.
I'm surprised that Ribovic is actually playing defense so much in the pocket like that and not actually trying. I mean, that's his real chance to win the fight. Is counter hook in the pocket.
Because he's getting beat really bad, man.
Curious if he adjusts at all in the second round here. As Liam was saying, me and him kind of missed part of the first round as we were getting things set up. How did you score the first round, Balboa?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How did you score the first round?
Oh, the first round, easy 10-9 to Zellhuber. Yeah, without even a question.
Yeah, there's that jab again that you were mentioning.
That left jab was everything, yep. Oh, look at there's some body shots there, but that left jab, though, is everything.
One of the things I noted in my breakdown is when we saw Francisco Prado slipping the jab from Zellhuber, he would often get to that collar knee, and you just saw him use that right there. As Ribovic was starting to slip offline, he was able to grab a hold of his head and fire that knee up the middle.
To Zellhuber's credit, as far as, I'm critical of him putting the arm out like that. He does do a good job at framing at times, though. Yeah. Like for those who aren't familiar with frames, it's basically just posting your arm out and either measuring distance or preventing your opponent from closing the distance. I'm very tall myself, 6'8", so when I fight, basically, or when I spar, I should say, I'm taller than everyone. I absolutely adore frames, something I talked about in the past. I do not understand why fighters don't use them more when they have the reach advantage. John Jones is a guy who's great with frames, although Jones likes to do a modified version of the frame where he sticks his fingers into his opponent's eyes. And he does it intentionally, where the frame, again, normally you can kind of keep distance with it, but by putting it near their face, it deters the fighter from moving forward because they don't want to get poked. But as they say, if you ain't shooting, you ain't trying.
Ribovic is starting to have a little bit more success here. He's been forcing a little bit more of a brawl out of Zellhuber. Zellhuber's doing well when he's at kicking range, but when he's starting to box a little bit too close, he's having some struggles in there. I think he just punched him right in the dick.
Yeah, you don't want to go inside on Ribovic, man.
There. Yeah, Zellhuber got hit with a couple of good overhands from both sides and a couple different combinations from Ribovic a moment ago. When Ribovic...
please go ahead.
I was going to say, when Ribovic gets in the pocket, like he has been, Zellhuber seems to, there goes to the body. I was just about to say, he should rip to the body and then go up top. We saw with
he's not doing that. He never does that. It's all body work.
Of course, yeah. But what you saw earlier with Van, he did a great job in his fight. Turn the momentum around.
Yeah, I wish he would go to the body, but
so hard to defend in MMA when your opponent's mixing up to the head and body. It's not like the big boxing gloves that you can defend both with, and also the high trunks in boxing too.
Yeah, this is going the distance for sure, man.
I can still see
Definitely got that feel so far. I
can
will
see
say there's a little bit of wear on the face of Zellhuber now. He's just starting to show a little bit of that damage from the hooks, but he's still doing a little bit more clinical work, I would say, coming forward, pressing action.
There's a knee you were mentioning. Yeah, his nose, I think it's cut maybe on the inside near the eye. It looks like that's maybe where it's bleeding from.
Ribovic has very good hand speed because he's at such a huge size disadvantage here, and he keeps finding ways to land.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good.
That was a good shovel right uppercut as well.
Yep. There's that right again. Zellhuber is, to his credit, doing a little bit better with actually blocking with both hands, both arms this time.
Zellhuber looks amazing.
Wow, look at the strike numbers in this fight.
Ribovic is really good
on the broadcast. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah, it was, what was it, 40 in round 2 and 30 in round 1 for Ribovic?
Yeah, it was basically like they each had like 30 some odd apiece and then 40 some odd apiece in this round.
Oh, okay.
He's got to use that teep more. It's very effective for him because there's nothing really that Ribovic can answer with. You know, there's no tool he has that is within range of that attack.
Again, as a tall person myself, love the teep and don't understand why it's not utilized more. I really thought when John Jones came on the scene many years ago, he basically absolutely made the blueprint for how to fight tall in MMA. I even predicted back then, you're going to see other fighters basically just replicate his game. No one does. No one really tries to be John Jones, who just utilizes a great variety of front kicks, the frames, the long straight strikes. He is one of the experts at distance management, and I don't understand why fighters don't try to just literally straight up copy him.
The game, I feel, has become so much more about combinations, and he was like a lot of single shots, but he would just mix up, like, I'm going to go to this kick, I'm going to throw a punch, I'm going to throw a kick to the leg, I'm going to throw a kick to the body.
Yeah, he was a big pot shotter. It helped him keep his distance. He did try to get in some more combination type exchanges with the likes of Reyes and Santos, and we saw how that worked out for him.
I got to say, this spear does look pretty cool right now in the background.
I was complaining earlier on the night on Twitter, and it's funny, some people who didn't watch the prelims are like, what are you talking about? The prelims, they basically did nothing for the spear. The main card is definitely a lot better. I really liked when they just announced for the last fight the decision, and you could actually see the background behind the fighters where it literally looked like they were in that environment. My main criticism of the spear and the production elements, though, is you don't basically see it at all during the walkouts or during the fights. While the action's taking place, it looks essentially like any other UFC fight. So I wish that with all the time and money they spent on it, they had either positioned the cage and the walkouts in a way so it maybe looked like they were emerging from the environments, or you could actually see the environments in the background while the fight is going on rather than just these in-between shots. Because it does look very cool in the in-between shots, but if you're going back and watching a replay of these fights in this event on, some highlights or something, or some UFC Unleashed type episode, you're not even going to be able to tell it's in the sphere during the fights.
Yeah, I think they're trying to establish that with that crowd shot and things like that in between. But I see what you mean. It's kind of hard to, differentiate. That's why they do the fights in the Apex, because it looks, oftentimes pretty similar to an arena and everything else, right? It's all about what's going on in the action in the cage.
To the UFC's credit, they have nailed production before so many other companies. I mean, there was back in the day in Bellator's early days where it looked like such an amateur show compared to the UFC production value. So the UFC does, to an extent, have a if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, which I totally understand.
That was a good right hook from Zellhuber coming over the top.
Yeah, there again just now, too.
How many is that?
412. Oh, 409, 408. He just dropped him. And now you're seeing a takedown from Ribovic. Nicely done from Zellhuber. I was thinking to myself, man, he's starting to land clean with that right straight. And as I was thinking it, he then came over the top. He started to land in the elbow and put him down briefly. Ribovic wisely went for a takedown there to bail himself out because it looked like he was very, very hurt. Oh, and a poke to the eye might save him.
I was going to say, that's so lucky for him.
Goes the distance, went so down in stock and then so back up. It was like, Shooting up and down in value. And honestly, I thought there was a lot of weird fights like that with the stoppages. The Waregi fight, there was 2 low blows right before that weird finish. So,
dude, that's 2 fights now for her where she's got bombed on as a massive upset.
Yeah.
Honestly, her chin is just not reliable at all.
No,
I think that that's been proven
division.
at this point. Yeah, I said in my article before this fight that she had a below average chin for the division, but to see it play out again like this, no bueno.
Yeah. Was she like minus 600 here, right? Is that what she closed at?
I think it was about minus 500. Oh my God, Ribovich just hurt him badly. Oh my God, Ribovich just hurt him so badly. He's got him covered up against the fence. He's going off with shots. Ribovich is coming after him. Ribovich might get the standing TKO. Zellhuber is out on his feet. Zellhuber may be out on his feet. He's trying to get back. He's trying to recover. He's trying to get his feet underneath him. He's not throwing back. He is not answering. Ribovich is trying to dog him out right here. Ribovich is going to the body. He's going to the head. He's trying to find the kill shot. He's trying to put it on him. Ribovich chasing him down. Oh my God, Zellhuber is stumbling. He has no legs underneath him. He's trying to get it back, but he can't. 243. Can he do it? Ribovich trying to chase him down, but he's tired.
That was Baby Giraffe learning how to walk right there.
Oh, big body shots. Ribovich is going after him. Zellhuber is on wobbly legs. Zellhuber is on complete recovery mode. If this was Adesanya Pereira, it was stopped 2 minutes ago.
Ribovich is tired. He can't keep throwing. He's gassed. You can tell.
Oh, good Lord.
He's totally out of wind. He's totally out of wind. Finish isn't going to happen.
Wow, what a big shot to the body by Ribovich. Wow, Ribovich is just dogging after him. This is crazy. Zellhuber finally throwing back. Zellhuber has the heart of a warrior. He looked like he was out completely, guys. I'm telling you, he had no legs. He fell all over the place. Many referees stopped this fight, and then he gets back up, and he is throwing right hands, standing in the pocket, trying to answer back. God bless him for it, man. This is a tough son of a gun. He looked like he was done. He looked like he could not find his legs.
Like the last fight, props not only to the fighter for surviving, but props to the referee for not stopping that. We've seen some good non-stoppages so far tonight.
Fair play. Oh my God. Round 3 significant strikes. They got 77 for Ribovich.
Wow,
he is
insane.
absolutely going off. Oh, and now Zellhuber's starting to answer. What a fight.
Ribovich is tired. His strikes, he threw a little combination there, but for the most part, it's pot shotting now.
Man, this guy, Daniel Zellhuber, my hat is off to him.
It's totally arm punches, too. There's literally no torque on these punches from Ribovich. If Zellhuber recovers here, he can possibly swarm for a stoppage. But he's very hurt himself. I don't think that's going to happen before the end of the round. Yeah, you can see Ribovich is feeling it. I'm curious if Zellhuber is able to recover enough for round 3 that he can put on an onslaught, or if they're both just going to be very, very worn out. Zellhuber more from the damage, Ribovich more from the not lack of cardio. I mean, he's probably going to put up around 100 strikes by the time this round is up, so you can't fault him for being a bit tired right now, but curious to see if he gets a second wind or not. That's Sean Strickland in the corner back there?
Yeah, I would imagine so. He's an Extreme Couture guy for sure.
Yeah. Thought that was him going nuts in the corner. There's that knee again from Zellhuber. Looks like Ribovich recovered a little bit near the end of the round, maybe the last 20 seconds or so. Just curious to see how he looks.
Man, I think that this is probably going to end up going to Ribovich. It's super close. I have no idea because I would have said that the second round was a closer round. I thought the first round was a Zellhuber round, but that third round was tremendous, and Ribovich definitely won that third round. I think that was a clear round.
I would guess 1-1 for the first two. Just seems so often when you get a close 2 rounds like that, the judges almost automatically go 1-1. I would not be surprised no matter which way the judges go with this one. The last fight was surprising. We had a 10-8 one way, but not the other way, which was bizarre.
Oh, my God. Dude, Daniel Zellhuber had no legs. He was leaning on the cage for like a minute.
That was complete chicken dance. That is. You can look at his legs even there.
Jason Herzog is out there watching him just like, you're good. You're good. You're good. That was crazy, man. What a fight. That
Great
fight,
fights.
round
That
3 of
fight.
this fight and round 2 of Chirez and Joshua Van. Tremendous mixed martial arts action.
Opening fight of the main card was fantastic as well. So those are 2 legit fight of the night contenders so far.
I'm not sure
So
you
far,
can
the
give
fight
that.
has been overall pretty good. Not the most meaningful or biggest names, of course, in the UFC. The top 3 fights obviously have those, but the fights, at least so far, despite on paper not exactly the most stacked event, at least they've been very, very fun.
UFC lightweight history. All right, the official decision is brought to you by Heart Tool.
Just make sure we can't hear the stream audio.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you able to hear that at all in the background?
Just a tiny bit. I'm not sure from where, but let's see who takes this decision down.
So it looks dope when they have the background there when they're announcing the decisions. Split, of course.
Wow. There you have it. 2 and 5 on the night. It has been a brutal night for Mexico. Dana White's love letter has been just a absolute whiff, huh?
That's cool with the confetti there, too.
What was the decision?
Ribovic.
Wow.
Split decision.
Wow.
Damn, Joe Rogan's beard is like all white now.
The spear, like confetti in the background, that looks kind of cool.
That's what I'm saying. When they do like the interviews or just read the decisions, it looks cool. I wish they could have, obviously, in order to frame it in a way that you could see the background, I guess they probably have to have raised the octagon up. But I don't know, for all the hype that they talked about, how it was going to be so crazy and everything, I thought they were going to get more creative with some of the elements. Because when you actually can see the elements, they actually do look cool. I just wish you could see them more often. That was a massive overhand right there. Zellhuber's chin, he does have that tall man defense, and he relies so much on the frames, but at least his chin actually held up here. Obviously didn't get the win, but he took some massive shots. It's still a bit of a moral victory to survive, especially that onslaught in the one round there. That was probably like at least 90 seconds, 2 minutes that it was going for?
I would have to imagine. I have to go back and revisit, but I would have to imagine it went on that long.
Like I said, props to the referee. That was Herzog in that one for not stopping it. It's Tyone in the last one who didn't stop that one. So refs always get bashed whenever they mess up. It's such a thankless job. I like to give them props when they have the good performance as well.
Well, now instead of the win bonus, he gets a bunch more knuckle sandwiches, and then he gets to go home. Man, it's a tough one. That's a tough one. That split decision. It was a close fight, though. It was a very close fight.
That was a very, very fun one.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very rewatchable fight. Good matchmaking as well.
Then we have Lopes versus Ortega next. That should, in all likelihood, be very fun as well.
It's going to be a banger.
Yeah, co-main event has some potential to maybe not be all that great. Could be good, could be kind of meh, but I guess the main event also technically could be like that. But there's some good potential for these top 3 fights to be very good as well, especially this next one. Absolutely. When are they going to officially announce him versus Shavkat?
Oh, don't worry. They're going to announce him versus Kamaru Usman.
Dude, when he won the title,
I'm gonna pick a different sport. I'm gonna start watching one championship.
When he won the title in the post-fight show on ESPN, there's 4 people on the broadcast. Everyone besides Senko was saying, "Oh, it has to be Kamaru Usman next. Can't do Shavkat." She was the only one rallying for Shavkat. I was like, you guys aware Kamaru Usman's off 3 losses in a row? 3? Not 1, not 2, 3? Shavkat is, what's he, 16-0 now? All stoppages?
I think it's 18-0.
18-0?
All stoppages. What
Like,
more could you ask for?
Kamaru Usman, who has no knees, who, like, it's not like he's a super marketable fighter like a Conor McGregor type who was doing gangbusters on pay-per-views. It's very strange why they have such a. I've seen like even I think Joe Rogan said also on his podcast they should do Usman next. So I don't know what the particular love there is for Usman from the UFC brass, but seems like you have the most obvious matchup to line up there, especially given. Let's be honest, fans don't consider Belal to be the most exciting fighter out there. So you book him against Shavkat, who is very exciting. I think that does a lot better in terms of the interest versus against Usman, who's can be exciting, but certainly not like Shavkat.
Shavkat is money in terms of entertainment value. Even the fights where he's almost lost, he's
Jeff
tended to go out there and have wars,
Jeff Neal fight is one of
He has
the top
18
ones.
finishes, right?
Yes, and it's even, right? Is it still even perfectly 50-50 sub and KO? It was at one
I think
point.
he might have exceeded the sub count, but let me check.
I know he was 16-0. It was 8-8. I mean, speaking of bizarre title shots that don't really make sense, we have here in the advertisement Poatan versus Roundtree. Should be a fun fight at least, but a bit of a head scratcher there in terms of that matchmaking.
10 subs, 8 knockouts.
Okay.
So 18. I was right.
Yeah.
I remembered that. How crazy is that I remember that? That's kind of nuts.
You want a cookie?
Yeah, please.
It's just such an obvious match to go forward with. I don't know why you would even consider Kamaru Usman. When I heard that on the post-fight show, I literally had to rewind it. I was like, wait, did I miss here? Did I what? And then the fact that they've still been kind of campaigning for that, a bit strange. We're all 3 on Merab in the main event, correct?
I don't know, Liam.
Sure. I didn't bet it on the pre because I thought that the plus money was going to get better. Everybody I saw was betting on O'Malley. And then today, money has flooded in on Merab, as you guys, I'm sure, have seen. So, the plus money has kind of gotten away from me. I looked at the plus 118, plus 120, and I was like, man, if this goes off at like plus 125, I'm going to have to be on that side. So I'm definitely going to see what the closing number is. Oftentimes in these fights, there's a lot of late steam. So I'm not in a rush, but yeah, that's definitely the side that I lean towards. And honestly, I would consider betting him live as well. If he goes out there and gets beat up in the first round and comes out looking, like he's still the machine.
Yes, a lot of times in these situations where it's one fighter early or the other late, I usually try to live bet it. But this one, I think if O'Malley wins, it's because he has a singular moment or maybe a couple of them. I don't think he's going to go out there and minute to minute, round to round, go out there and like 3-0 Merab after the first 3 rounds or something like that. I think if he wins, it's because maybe he's actually even losing, getting outpaced a bit in the first round, then lands the bomb, and then that's a wrap. So I don't know how much potential there actually is for the live betting opportunity there with Merab, but I do think it's definitely an early versus late situation. Either Sean O'Malley lamps him in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds, or I think Merab takes over at the pace, the weaponization of the cardio. And I even think there's actually a real chance Merab could finish late. Officially picked a decision for predictions, didn't bet that, just have money line on him. Just an average size bet, nothing big. But I do think there's actually a legitimate shot he could get the finish. Like if he's especially getting the takedowns and the pace going in the first round, we have never seen O'Malley put up with that kind of onslaught before. I think there's a chance O'Malley then could be very tired late and actually potentially get finished himself. But again, very legit shot that O'Malley lands the nuke in the early going. If that happens, anyone who picked Merab can absolutely not say, oh, it's a bad luck or a bad beat or have sour grapes. It's a legitimate potential outcome here. So obviously betting or predicting against that, but it is still a legitimate possibility.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's a sniper on the feet, but it's the kind of fight where it's not really about, for me, like Merab's grappling upside, to your point. It's mostly about his pace upside and his ability to just keep going out there and pressing the action, taking somebody down. They get back up, take them down again. It's the kind of thing that's demoralizing over time and tends to break people down physically.
I just could totally see it's like maybe Rob's winning 4 minutes of the first round, or maybe even wins the first round and then gets lamped at some point late first round or in the second round, and then people who back him are like, "Oh my God, what a bad beat! He was winning." It's like if O'Malley wins, that's how it's going to happen. He's not going to go out there and win the minute to minute, round to round. I don't think, unless he's rocking Rob along the way, or really landing some good shots. Speaking of bets and all that, I probably should plug that. If you can see there by the banner at the bottom of the screen, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/FuriousFightPicks. We have all of our bets and content available there. There are pre-fight bets, which are up right now for this card and other MMA events. And we also have now a new live betting service that has launched actually with this card. Those will be going from the prelims for every UFC going forward. So potentially from the first fight of the night, we might have live betting opportunities in the future. Also for these watch-alongs, this is the first one we're doing. Going forward, they will be live for every pay-per-view. Also, generally, they will be starting at the start of the pay-per-view. I actually did an hour late start time for this one because the UFC talked about all the production elements they'd be doing, so thought there'd be maybe some more movies and the like to get going early, and we might actually not get the fights for a bit, but that wasn't really the case. So going forward, they will be starting at the same time as the main card pay-per-view, and again, they will be live for every pay-per-views, the watch-alongs that is, and then the live bets will be for every UFC fight night pay-per-view or anything else. Again, very cool graphics here. I'm sure it looks especially interesting if you are in person with the immersion of the whole sort of wraparound screen there. I just wish that we got to see it more often during the actual fights. That's a compliment to how cool they look. It's in a way a criticism, but it's also a compliment.
Yeah, this is a really cool set design. The one that they
Yeah, I
transitioned
love
to
this,
here.
Bro, they sandbagged so bad for the prelims. I was like, is this actually how it's going to be? They literally put up graphics of like the Apex scaffolding in the background for the prelims.
Find the Easter egg.
Has anybody posted about the Easter eggs yet? Anybody
I
have?
have no idea.
I have not.
Looks beautiful though, to be honest.
Yeah, this is I would say the best of the set so far. I'm assuming they're going to keep getting better as it goes on.
I lived in Mexico for 3 years. This looks something similar.
I like how they put the meme Mexico filter on it, where like, everything in Mexico movies is in the orange filter, the sepia filter. I like how they put that on it. If this fight is not super exciting, I don't know what to say. Is there any one of the top 3 fights that you guys are looking forward to the most?
I think that's a difficult question for me. In terms of like entertainment value, it's probably this fight that's coming up right now. In terms of like anticipation as a fight fan, I think it's the main event for sure. The co-main event, I hope to see Alexa Grasso do well because I've been a big fan of her work and she's made me some money. But other than that, that's a fight that I find is a little bit forgettable. Just overall from a matchmaking standpoint, it doesn't blow my hair back.
Yeah, I'm not particularly jazzed about that fight. I hope it's exciting. I hope maybe it's back and forth with some drama. I would definitely say this fight, in terms of pure excitement potential, Lopes versus Ortega, should be on paper the most exciting of them. And then obviously the most interesting, most meaningful would be the main event. So top 3 fights are very solid overall, although definitely I feel like there's a bit of a lull with that middle co-main event fight. Curious to see how Ortega looks here after he did not look particularly great at the weigh-ins, to say the least. Definitely came in looking a bit soft.
Diego Lopes got to put, fighters training out of Mexico on his back right now.
Yeah. What's the record now? They've been doing horribly so far.
I think it's 2-5.
2-5.
But Raul Rosas Jr. technically trains in the U.S., I believe. So if that's the case, then it would be like 1-5. Not bueno.
I
Yeah,
guess
trains everywhere, man.
I guess they're going just by heritage for the number, Mexican heritage.
I was going by Tapology. They list him as an American by
Mm.
flag, but obviously he represents for the culture. His parents, I believe, are Mexican. So
Yeah.
It's interesting. They gave everybody a light up wristband so they can, I guess, kind of do like see people do with phones or lighters at arenas, and they can sync the different people's wristbands to the graphics as you're seeing there. Interesting.
what do you guys think about the fight not to go the distance here? In my write up, I said I thought it was going to be Lopez early or Ortega late. And I did say that I thought there was some split decision equity type of deal if it's Lopez having early success and then kind of gassing out like he did against Ige.
I officially picked Lopes by decision, but I definitely think decision is very real. I actually had a very tough time when I was officially going with that. I was like, there's so many ways both honestly can finish, but obviously I favor Lopes here. I think he could potentially catch Ortega, who used to have an incredible chin, but it has seemed to be quite on the decline. Also, the poor shape. Is he going to tire out here? Normally he has good cardio, but obviously a bit of a red flag when he shows up like that. Then, of course, if he gets rocked, maybe club and sub, even a potential possibility. So I think there's a variety of ways that a finish could potentially happen here. I officially picked Lope's decision, but I have no confidence in actually going the distance. How about you, Bubba?
Which fight are we talking about?
Lopes versus Ortega.
Oh, Lopes versus Ortega. Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Do you think it's going the distance or no?
Let's go. I don't think so. I think Lopes is gonna KO him round 1. Yeah, pretty sure.
Definitely, I think obviously finish is weighted more towards KO for Lopes, but I could see a submission after a club and sub. He will obviously.
Nah.
He has a very good
KO.
submission game, but I assume if he knocks him down, he's just gonna straight up go for the finish. But normally in a matchup like this, you would never assume submissions even really on the table. But I think there's a chance for that. Again, definitely weight towards the KO in terms.
Might say KO and then like early KO, second round or something like that. First round. I don't even think it's gonna get out of the first round. To be honest,
I'd say probably if the KO happens, probably first half of the fight.
Yeah.
The over set to 2.5 here.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I think either the power is enough to hurt Ortega. I think if they're standing, Lopes is going to land on Ortega, and either the power is going to be enough to get him out of there in the first round and half, or he just doesn't have the power to do it, and then we go to the scorecards.
Yeah, this is going under 100%. Someone said over. Did you say over, Liam?
I basically think we're dealing with a correlated outcome. Like I think more often than not, if Ortega wins this fight, he does so in comeback fashion. He's been like the king of the round 3 comeback in the UFC. And for me, like that's an opportunity to beat Diego Lopes. However, I think that in the early going, Diego, he's just a guy that hits very hard. He comes out fighting extremely aggressively. So he tends to slow down over time, but those guys also sometimes get underrated because people are like, they're going to slow down, but they're also going to try and kill you for, 10 minutes. So I think that in that case, it's going to be a great fight. And I was just worried because I saw Brian last time when I bet on him, go out there and roll his ankle before the fight even started. So
yeah.
Dude, betting him there, then seeing, I think, didn't I message you before the fight? I was like, bro, you just see what happens?
Yeah, I wanted to be sick.
Bellator?
I wanted to be sick.
What's up, Bobo?
Did you guys bet any Bellator today?
No, I didn't even watch it.
No, I did not bet Bellator personally. I just bet Patchy Mix, who I believe is in the audience at the Sphere tonight. That's it for me.
You bet Bellator, right, Bobo? You won?
Yeah, I won. Yep.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think there was one official bet on it, right?
Yeah, Mike Shipman.
He dominated too, right?
Pardon?
He dominated too, right?
Yeah. Easy.
Was he like minus 150, 160 or something?
Plus 130.
Oh, plus 130. Oh, okay, even better. Keys to victory: get the fight to the ground and manage the chaos. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I feel.
Seems pretty straightforward for him. Yeah, I mean, there's not. It's a weird style matchup because they're so similar in so many ways. They both kind of lack the wrestling. They're both more offensively gifted on the feet than defensively. They both obviously have the great submission offense, but they're not the best positional grapplers. It's just that Lopes so far, granted, versus a lower level of competition significantly than Ortega, but so far and at the current point in their career, he seems just to be a little bit more dynamic in those areas than Ortega, and it should be the difference here. But I don't know, maybe Ortega with the post-USADA can turn back the clock with some supplements, but didn't seem like that based on his shape that he's coming in. Doesn't look nearly the best shape of his career. You know, like we saw Sean Brady, for example, recently, who has cardio issues historically, which came in by far the best shape we've seen him at the weigh-ins, and people were wondering, myself included, maybe that cardio will be improved as a result, and it was. When you see a fighter come in the reverse, sometimes the reverse can happen.
I took a little bit of fight not to go the distance here, just to feel something. It's really short, like minus 125 at Caesars, and it's minus 150 on Bet Online, and a couple of the sharper outfits out there. And for me, I feel like in the earlier iterations of this fight, when it was booked, people were a lot more bullish on this ending inside the distance, and then some people were bullish on it going the distance. And so that has been refactored into the market. And for me, I just feel like these are two really dangerous, violent guys. And historically, you see a lot of durability out of Brian Ortega. I think eventually that has to give at his age in this division. And then on the other side, Diego Lopes, he's looked very durable recently, but he's been on the wrong end of, pretty dangerous positions in his own right throughout his career. He's been finished before. So I think he's going to come out really hot and start great in this fight. But I do worry. He said, like, I'm going to go out there and finish quick and then go corner Alexa. That's the kind of thing that if you go out there and start, like a man on fire, you could just end up with a little bit less in the tank. So.
The one thing that I was actually talking with Balboa yesterday about Lopes is, so far, he obviously has improved greatly in his career. He's looked great in the UFC so far. Certainly better than he did early in his career, where it was a bit of a different situation with his training and everything, but still is concerning to have those bad performances against the low-level competition. And we haven't seen him really tested or face much adversity so far in the UFC, so mostly his wins are kind of like Tom Masvidal, where he just goes and blows a guy out of the water, and you don't really get to see, again, any adversity. So not that I expect him to be a guy who has no heart or anything like that, but
he had one fight that aged well with Joe Anderson Brito, in which he was on the wrong end of a lot of adversity in that fight and stayed in it and kept trying to find subs. But it just showed, Joe Anderson Brito was a really dangerous guy and kind of competent in all positions, But Joe Anderson Brito, he's got his opportunity next week. He's in a big fight in Paris. I think he's taking on William Gomis.
Ortega, I will say, he actually looks, it's weird, after the weigh-ins, he almost looks a little bit better physically. Usually, when you're cutting the weight, you actually look more lean than you even are in fight night, and then they look a little bit softer once they're in the cage. He actually looks not as, I guess, soft here. He doesn't look great, don't get me wrong, but not as concerning as I was thinking before. Don't have a round timer up, but the round just started, 4:55 right now. I'll have to get a round timer going for the future.
I'm at like 4:46, 5, 4, if anybody's trying to time it up.
You are literally 1 second ahead of me. In the future, I'll get a round timer up. I totally spaced on that. Like I said, first watch along. So
he's hurt badly. He's hurt so badly. Oh my God. Diego Lopes is coming out hot, just like we expected. Brian Ortega's hurt badly. Oh, he's hurt so bad. He's hurt so bad. He's covered up. Diego Lopes is on him. He's in a rear waist cinch. He lifts him up. He's going for a choke, it looked like. Now he's not. Releases it. He's on top position. He's looking for the elbow. Full guard from Brian Ortega. Oh my goodness. Brian Ortega looked like he was on Dream Street for a second there. Big shots from the full guard from Lopes. He stands up out of the triangle and looks to pass.
He looks a bit.
Wow. Big ground and pound shots. Stack pass from Diego Lopes. This guy is a man on fire right now. Wow. Brian is bleeding. He's busted up.
He just simply can't take the literally every shot that hurt him.
This guy's a problem.
Even if he survives, he's getting finished. It's like I was saying in the pre-fight. Either we're going to see Lopez's power is too much, or it's going the decision. Like if
Can't believe he's surviving that.
He may survive this brief little onslaught here. It seems like there's a lull here, but just let him back up.
He actually
dropped
does.
again. Every punch hurt him there.
Diego into top position. Now
He's-
he's looking for
he's
ground and
definitely
pound
trying
from the
for
full
that-
mount.
He's
Or he's in a
trying for that
3/4
club
mount.
and
It's
stuff
kind
like
of
that.
an adjusted position. He's looking for big ground and pound shots, though. This is a good position for Lopes.
He definitely seems to want that club and sub, like I was alluding to on the pre-fight broadcast. But I think it'd be smart to just let him stand up here, totally ignore the grappling, just go back on the feet. You can probably drop him and KO him.
Yeah, he should have called him up, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
he is showing good dexterity on the ground. He's gotten up out of the submission attempts very well. Oh, big shots again with the right hand. Diego Lopes is having a ton of success with these shots. Couple nice up kicks from Ortega. Couple decent ground strikes as well. He's throwing back, at least fighting here. He's busted up. But
He has a
at
cut.
least
Looks
now
like
he
over
looks like he's
left
back
eye.
with it.
He has a cut over his left eye, which right now is draining off to the side of his temple. But if they stand up, that looks like it's going to drain directly into his vision.
I'm just surprised that Diego. Oh, there it is. He finally calls him back up to his feet. Interesting.
Finally,
What was it?
And Ortega looks like a
wiping that eye.
bloody mess right now.
He's still a little bit hurt the way he's moving. You can tell he's not quite back. Maybe like 90% back, but not quite.
Man, Ortega's not a small featherweight, and he does not look big next to Diego
No,
Lopez.
dude,
at all.
Lopez
Diego
massive.
looks very big.
Lopez striking still is a little bit loopy and sloppy though. More than a little bit. Yeah, and you're seeing the blood kind of has actually dried up a little bit over that left eye from Ortega. That's actually very good for him. If that starts bleeding again, the position it's in, it's right in, it looks like above the eyebrow, just maybe slightly under it. And if that opens up again, it's going to go right into the eye. And if he's already having trouble,
Ortega's starting to have some boxing success.
if he's already having trouble getting hit and knocked down, if he's only has one eye, especially from the blocking the
Oh,
power.
that was a great
eye,
lead left hook.
if that eye fills up and it's blocking the lead or the power side from Lopes, especially, that could be very, very bad.
The right cross is sick.
Nice overhand right there too. I don't know if he's specifically targeting the cut, but he's certainly landing a lot of right hands over in that direction.
That was a good low kick as well.
Nah, he knows what he's doing.
Ortega looks
Throw that
recovered
right
now.
cross. Yeah, throw that right cross. Throw that right cross. Throw that right cross. Right cross. Right cross. Come on.
Ortega looks recovered now, but Lopes is still landing pretty easily. Seems like Lopes is trying to recover a bit right now, get a second wind. I don't know if he burnt himself out for that finish.
He throw that right. Come on, see. Every time Ortega throws left, he throws right. Watch.
Ortega enters into the pocket and he throws strikes, and then there's like this half-second pause where he just keeps his hands down and then just sort of freezes there and then eventually exits the pocket again. If Lopes waits for him to engage, maybe even feints to bait an engagement, just stay out of range and then capitalize with a big cap, load up on an overhand right. When he does that, he could probably nuke him and get him out of there. I've noticed it several times there from Ortega where, again, he'll enter, and whether his punches land or not, there's just this very slight moment where he just freezes kind of with his hands down like this and then backs away. Catch him during that split-second freeze. He's wide open. What are we calling this hairstyle from Lopes? Is it a straight mullet or is that a wolf cut?
I have no idea. I don't know what Brian's rocking either.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know what he had in
They
his
both got
pre-fight.
some interesting hairdos. God bless them for it.
In that new pre-fight UFC picture they put up, he had even, I think it was different braids than that, or maybe it was the same ones. I just couldn't tell from that angle. But he had like two going out on the same side. Looked like a schoolgirl. Again, very cool graphics in the background. Just wish we saw them more. Yeah, he does have a different braid now for this. It's just a singular one.
Ortega's been working a little bit more of his kicks into the frame. And then he's also starting to throw that jab a lot more at the back half of the round. That was a good opening from Lopez, though.
Ortega can break him right here, man. To be honest, that's what's up.
Lopes looks a lot faster to start
A
round
little
2.
weird. I feel a little weird.
Lopes is throwing a lot faster here to start round 2 than he was at the end of round 1. He was looking a little bit slow.
I mean, this should be Lopes easy, but I'm worried.
This is what I was saying with like on
Yeah.
the Free-Fight podcast. Like when you have a guy like this who's like that Tom Aspinall who just goes out there and blows everyone out of the water, what is it going to be like when he faces adversity? He might be getting.
I think it's fine. I think
So
it's
far,
fine.
so far, I don't feel like he's dead or anything like that. Obviously, he's still ahead in the fight and everything, but definitely quite a big trend downward.
Oh my God.
Started out.
Yeah,
He just stuffed a takedown attempt from Ortega and landed
Yeah.
some good shots on the inside.
Ortega had a good grip on that takedown too. He had his
I know, we're right.
behind the single. And Lopes shrugged that off well.
I don't think people understand how good Ortega is. Oh, body shot. Oh my God.
Lopes' pace is really slowed here.
Body shot there.
I mean, he can still obviously hurt Ortega at any point, but I thought it was going to be Dunzo even if he survived that initial onslaught, just because it seemed like every strike was hurting him from Lopes. But seems like there's not much explosion or power. Like that overhand right was terrible. It was slow as hell, looked like underwater. He was fast at the start of the round, the first maybe 30, 45 seconds. He threw a couple of good combinations in the pocket that were very fast, back-to-back hooks left to right. Fast and powerful with them, but now that was a little bit better there. Ortega's not doing so much himself, but he definitely seems to be the fresher of the two currently.
Right.
Trade power shots there, right overhand right from Lopes and then straight left from Ortega.
Good high kick.
Yeah, that was good. Have we ever had a definitive answer between is it Lopes or Lopez? It seems like every broadcast they announce it differently. Is it? I think didn't they just say Lopez? I have my broadcast very low, so I can't hear.
I think it's Diego Lopez.
Yeah, Brogan just said Lopez again there.
Oh, nice low kick. He just took him off his feet with
Yeah.
that. That was brilliant.
He hit him with a low kick near the end of round 1 that almost got him off his feet. You saw him kind of lose his balance backwards a bit. Potentially a good tool to return to there for Lopes, especially since his overall punching volume has slowed so much. I feel like this round is probably going to end up Ortega's way on the judges' cards.
The low kick knockdown could help, but he's going to need to put a little bit more behind it.
Yeah. Maybe we can get a rally going in the last 50 seconds or so.
Lopes has a tick where every time he comes in and out of range, he rubs underneath his chin. Check it every single time, man.
Yeah. He was doing that in between the corner. And when he was in the corner, too, he was doing that when they showed him on the stool. I wonder if he has some issue with his throat or something. Has he done that in other fights? I don't recall that.
I think he does it. Like, I used to think he did it to, like, point to his chin. Like, no, I got a chin. But I think maybe he just does it instinctually. Like Dustin Poirier with the shorts.
The shorts.
You know,
yeah.
things like that. It's like baked into your brain.
The only reason I wonder is because I saw him distinctly doing it in the corner.
Much more competitive around there.
Yeah.
Wow. Brian Ortega has swelled up to a plus 430 in the live betting market.
Really?
Huh.
I guess it's 1-1.
I think that's off.
Yeah, I would guess
think
it's
I'm gonna.
1-1.
Oh, I think it's because his leg is so messed up, but I don't know. That seems a little off to me.
Especially because you usually see if there's one fighter who wins the dominant first round, and then you see another fighter win, or say the same fighter rather, win a very close second round. So often the judges will actually go to the other fighter, even though they didn't deserve it, just because the contrast between the rounds is so extreme. And so, obviously, we're talking and stuff as this is going along, but it seemed like Ortega probably edged that round. But even without him probably edging it, the judges might have just, in any very close round like that, probably he had a slight advantage. Something I used to always get robbed by with decisions is that my fighter would like win 2 rounds, but one of them would be a close round after a dominant one, and the judges would go the other way. Then they'd lose round 3, should win 29-28, but would lose 29-28. So trust me, I'm very familiar with that habit from the judges. Interesting turn of events with how fast.
Oh wow.
Sure.
No, that's not something that he does all the time. They're saying that Anik mentioned it on the broadcast. They think he might have hurt his throat, Diego Lopes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
I'm telling because he keeps touching it every 2 seconds.
Oh,
it's a
literally,
very obvious tell.
Like you said, it's literally every time, like right there, literally every time he goes in and out. Or basically, again, anytime there's a pause, he is doing it. The Poirier or the Tuivasa short grab, though, that's usually, only in the fight. They're not sitting on the stool, doing that. Interesting. 2018 Lopez from the Twitter scores. Interesting. Maybe while we were talking, we misgauged the round. I wonder if maybe the commentary was particularly in favor of Lopez, and that's why you're seeing Twitter people agree with it. I don't really hear the commentary for the most part, but while I'm talking and stuff to you guys and that, I'm not focused as much as I normally would be on the scoring of the rounds. Normally, I'm hyper-focused on that.
Yeah, I think that it was definitely plausible to score it for him. He got the knockdown with the low kick, but it was a close round, I thought. A lot of people are saying like clear. I thought round 1 was clear Lopes for sure.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that was almost 10-8.
Yeah, borderline.
I wonder if that's factored into the live betting odds as well.
I do honestly think it wasn't quite a 10-8 though, because I did think Ortega had good offense coming back at the end of the round. But
personally, I would not do 10-8 there, and I would need either more sustained dominance, like what we saw early in that first minute or so. That really was like a minute of dominance, and then it was kind of a minute of survival, and then a couple minutes of not really that much from Lopez. If he had maybe like 3 minutes of domination, then maybe, but with the way that Ortega rallied, I 100% agree with you, only 10-9. But point was almost 10-8, so I don't know, maybe one of the judges went that way. We did see 10-8 with Alexa Grasso versus Shevchenko last time in round 5, so.
I bet fight not to go to feel something, and I can tell you guys honestly, I feel nothing.
Pre-fight, I predicted decision barely, as I mentioned, but after the first round, during the first round, I totally was sure it was going to be a finish. I am actually surprised we are 2 minutes away now from decision. I was genuinely thinking it was going to be a finish there. Confidently so. I mean, regardless of what people on Twitter are saying, like I said, I feel like round 2 was still competitive. And again, that trend with the judges, I would not be confident if I was Lopez here. And maybe the judges have him up 2-0, but again, 10-8 with like Grasso, how many other terrible scorecards have we seen? The first fight had a 10-8 one way, but not the other. Cannot have faith in judges. Good combination there from Lopez. Seems like he has Ortega backing up a little bit. Looked like maybe one of the punches might have hit his eye, kind of covered his eye a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see him go into the wrestling here, but I guess he's just fatigued.
I mean, if he gets a takedown, I think that would seal the round and the fight. Gonna get away, yeah. Good job of Ortega doing the right thing there, fighting the hands. Oh, and there's a replay to the eye, like I said, yeah. Saw Ortega rub it right after, so figured that's usually what happens when you see a fighter do that. they can usually tell if it's a poke or a punch to the eye. They'll obviously, cry foul if it's a poke, but when it's a punch, they usually don't say anything, because if they do try to cry foul and say it was an eye poke and then the replay shows it was a punch, they actually will lose the fight there by TKO. It's happened before. Can't remember who, it was many years ago, but if you claim that it's a poke and it's not, it will be ruled a stoppage. So if you're a fighter and you're calling eye poke, you got to be sure that it's an eye poke, not a punch. Seems like at this point Lopez should be at the decision unless Ortega does something big here in the closing moments. Oh, big left hook. Oh, that seals it. That's a decision win for Lopez here. Dropped Ortega with a left hook while he was moving backwards, and then the momentum carried him further backwards and dropped him. I don't think he probably otherwise would have been dropped. He was kind of already stumbling back when it happened. That's unfortunate for Ortega, but very fortunate for Lopez. Ortega's busted up now. Big left hook again at the bell. That's got to be Lopez now.
Yep, Lopez decision.
Only question is it 30-27? Is it 29-28? I don't think there should be a 10-8 in there. But again, I mean, Grasso-Shevchenko was 10-8, so. Would you guys agree that's probably the most absurd 10-8 in MMA history? Grasso-Shevchenko round 5?
Whoa.
There's probably more egregious if I thought about it, but it's up there.
I mean, back in the day, up until a handful of years ago, the problem was the reverse, where judges would refuse to score 10-8s. You would have like 10-7 type rounds, and they still wouldn't even score to 10-8. Now, thankfully, they do it much more often. I can't think of another one that is. I mean, I don't see literally any justification for that round 5 being 10-8. It's not like
right.
Yeah, there's that first combination. Almost looked like he actually got woken up by the left hook on the way down.
Good job for him to stay alive.
Who was it? Was it Foreman who fought Ali and said that when he went down, Ali could have hit him on the way down, but he didn't, and that's why he thought he was the greatest fighter ever, because he knew not to hit him, that he knew actually to have reservation there. Taking a bit of time for this decision. That's interesting. Usually when that happens,
I mean, it's got to be Lopez in a huge way here, I feel.
I would be shocked if it went to Ortega. I'm wondering if maybe there is a 10-8, possibly. Maybe one judge somehow had not somehow, but had the first rounds 1-1, but then that would still be 29-28 for Lopez. So are they saying Ortega somehow won one of the other 2 rounds? Like, can't be a split. So if it's taking this long, it must be because of a 10-8, I guess. But there's no way Lopez lost the 3rd round. At worst, it should be 2-1 for him. Let's see. Oh, there was a 10-8.
All rounds to Lopez.
To Lopez, yeah. So one judge went 10-8. Again, not shocked, but personally, I definitely disagree with that. I thought Ortega did enough there in the last half to obviously not win back the round or anything, but to avoid a 10-8. Not the worst 10-8 out there, but definitely one that I disagree with. Yeah, I guess we were wrong about round 2. All 3 had it for him. Balboa, you had an official bet on Lopez, right?
Yeah, big.
I think he was the biggest bet of the card, right?
Yeah. Just thinking.
Excellent call there.
What did he say?
Excellent call.
Oh, yeah, good job there, Balboa. It was a 3-unit bet. So. Again, for you 2,700 and counting out there who are watching, thanks for joining us, of course. Again, these will be live now for every UFC pay-per-view main card going forward. Of course, if you do want our official bets, you can get those at the link you see there on the screen, patreon.com/FurySpyPicks. I actually still have some more bets left for this card, although obviously most of them have taken place already. We're up over 25 units over the summer alone. up around 50 units on the year, up well over 300 units long term. Those are all third-party tracked and verified. We have all the links to the third-party tracking on the page, so we're not fudging results. Also, average bet size only 1.75 units. So when I say we're up over 300 units, it's not like we're betting 30-unit plays or something every time. It's obviously realistic unit amounts. So Lopez here was our biggest bet of the card at 3 units. So again, our biggest bet was only 3. We don't have these stats there. So check it all out at patreon.com/Fury'sFightPicks. You can also get in on any potential live bets as well. That's a new service we started with this card. That will be for every fight on every card for the UFC going forward, not just pay-per-view main cards, which will be for the watch-alongs. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe. Always helps out the channel. It is obviously a new page, as you can see. Not so many subscribers so far. Trying to grow this for the future live streams. How would you guys rate the card overall so far? I feel like it's certainly one of the better cards of the UFC so far of the year.
It's been pretty good. I honestly, I'd be lying if I said it blew my hair back. It's been good fights, definitely. But there hasn't been that many fights. There's been a lot of time in between. There's been a lot of filler programming, and it has felt like it's been a little drag on at times. A lot of decisions tonight. So, hopefully somebody gets finished in one of these main event fights.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like the best card of the year. The UFC 300 probably will end of the year as the best card of the year. It's funny, kind of was a bit underwhelming in terms of the card value going in, but by the time that actually happened, that was a truly fantastic card top to bottom. This one, like you mentioned, there has been obviously some decisions. Nothing has really set the world on fire. There was a couple of great fights to start out the main card, some great ones on the prelims, but no real snoozers so far. Overall, the fights I feel like have been either good or excellent. So not so many cards, but with the UFC where we can say that. A lot of times I feel like you have some fun ones mixed with some absolutely dreadful ones. So I'm thankful that that has not been the case so far, although maybe I'm jinxing it with the 25-minute female fight coming up here. We don't have any bets between us on this one, right? No official bets on this fight?
No, I have a lean towards Alexa Grasso, a pretty strong lean towards Grasso, but I didn't end up getting to the window just because it felt a little bit mushy this week. But
yeah,
I was on her when she was a big underdog against this woman, so I've always thought she was going to win this matchup. And obviously, she's struggled at times to win the minutes, but the more dangerous fighter, I feel, the one who's had the bigger fight-ending moments has been Alexa Grasso in both fights. So
finished her the first time. Also, I actually did a fight film episode on it on the Patreon, where the way that Shevchenko throws in the pocket, she blades herself in a way that it is very easy for her to get dropped with a hook. I posted that going into their rematch because she almost got dropped in the first time like that, and then she did get dropped like that with the exact sequence that I outlined in the second fight. So the reason I point that out is obviously Alexa Grasso realized that as well. Obviously, it is a career-long issue with Shevchenko. At this point in her career, 36 years old, does she really change that? Probably not. So I think you're going to see Grasso try to target that again, get in those pocket exchanges, load up on the power hook. And she does have the superior boxing, obviously, from range. She kicks a bit, but Shevchenko is more of a kickboxer. She prefers to be at range. So I think Grasso, if she tries to get in the pocket, that's, of course, going to be her best way to win this. Interestingly, Grasso's takedown defense, you don't hear people talk about it as it being that bad, but boy, she gets taken down a lot. 4 times in both fights, but from Shevchenko, a couple of times, or 3 times, I think, by Arajo, a few times by Macy Barber, a few times in some other fights. She gets taken down a lot. And if we do see another close competitive fight, takedowns can be the difference. So I think the biggest keys for Grasso here are obviously improving her takedown defense, but then forcing more exchanges specifically in the pocket where she can land her hooks. Also worth noting, Shevchenko, 36 years old, as I mentioned, absolutely ancient for the lower divisions, 125, but also the female divisions. You don't see fighters at these lower weight classes doing very well at the mid-30s and above. Talked about it with Gilbert Burns recently. I actually bet him going into his fight against Sean Brady. My concern there, made it very clear going in, he might actually be shot. He is 38 years old, ancient in his welterweight. If he shows up completely washed, you can't be surprised. And it happened. Same thing with Shevchenko here. If she shows up looking like an absolute shell of herself, you can't be surprised by it. Hopefully for her it doesn't happen, but it is something to watch out for here. We might know very early on, like the Gilbert fight, like 2 minutes in, it was clear that dude was toast. potential live betting opportunities if that is the case here with Shevchenko. The Burns fighter is a bit trickier to live bet because Brady was already 2-1 going in, and then once he was winning the early portion, they immediately made him to 400 after the first round, 700, minus 400 and minus 700, that is, after the second round. With this fight being aligned so close, around 160-ish for Grasso, you might be able to actually still get a live betting opportunity in at a reasonable price, should Shevchenko look particularly bad. Also worth noting, Grasso looked by far the best shape of her career at the weigh-ins.
Yeah, I'm looking to see what the late market looks like on this fight right now. I would never play Shevchenko. I've been looking to fade this woman for a grip, and I bet Talia Santos and got robbed blindly. So Alexa Grasso was my vindication.
I remember that, yeah.
Unbelievable, man. I thought it was a clear 3-2 there, but
looking at the line, it's Grasso's down to only minus 118, the best available now. A lot of action has steamed in on Shevchenko today. Best is minus 118, highest for the most part around minus 130. Interesting. Main event currently sitting similar. Pick 'em in some places, 125 for O'Malley and others. See what the next graphic they do here. They've definitely gotten better with each successive fight so far.
so how many underdogs have there been? 1, 2,
definitely at least a few.
3. There's been 3 big dogs. Do I feel safe enough to take Grasso? It's a tricky one.
What's the Mexican fighter stats?
It's not good. A little to a lot. Diego Lopez trains there, and Ronaldo Rodriguez trains there.
This actually happens a lot when the UFC does these themed events for a specific country. So oftentimes they'll end up getting blown out of the water in terms of the win-loss. Wasn't there the British event recently? Was it the Aspinall Blades event maybe, where like every British fighter lost until him? I think it was
Sounds about right.
I think it was the Aspinall Blades rematch card, whereas I think it was literally everyone had lost up until him. One of the cards recently happened like that, I know. And then Leon Edwards lost in the main event too.
This Sphere graphic stuff is really cool, what they're doing right now.
I definitely like the in-between stuff they've been doing here for the main card. Totally sandbagged on the prelims. I guess their budget.
When it first started out, it didn't even look like it was different than a normal arena. But
dude, when it first started out, it looked like Joe Rogan's old infrared podcast. I posted a picture of that, and then they moved it when the prelim started to literally it looks like the Apex scaffolding, kind of like what you're seeing there. And then eventually, by the time the last fight of the prelim started, they started doing the Worlds. It's funny, someone in the comments here said I'm getting dragged for my opinions on X about this. Yeah, my opinions were about the prelims. And so many people did not watch the prelims. They were saying the pictures I posted were fake. They're like, bro, what are you talking about? Look at it. Go watch the prelims and tell me that wasn't absolute ass. That looked terrible. After 9 months of hype and all $20 million, I expected certainly better than the prelims. This is definitely a lot better. I still stand by it, and I will absolutely die on the hill that I think they should have done much more immersive things. I think during the walkouts, they should have done like a badass environment of each fighter where they're from. Even if the fighters are from the same country or same type of environment, you could have differentiated in some way, but made it look some sort of, sort of almost not comic book version, but like a slightly enhanced version of real life, make it, again, particularly badass. You could have set up the walkouts in a way that it looked like they're actually emerging from the environment. You could have set up the stage in a way, the octagon, so it was elevated, where you could actually then see the background while the fights are taking place. There's a lot more stuff that they could have done, and I'm sorry, after 9 months of hype and $20 million, this is nice, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this sucks, I enjoy this. I will die on the hill that they could have done more.
I don't disagree with that necessarily. I think it's also it's probably difficult to work a lot of it in without distracting from the fight. So they're probably trying to find that right balance. But admittedly, you'd like to have a dry run before you spend $20 million and give it a shot, right?
There's an event, I can't remember the name of it. It's like some sort of kind of Bush League one that takes place in Asia or something. Maybe some of the listeners know what I'm talking about. It takes place literally in front of an entire green screen on a flat surface, and then they set up the green screen which surrounds them to look like they're fighting in like a Mortal Kombat arena or like some dungeon. Like literally, that's what it looks like, and you see it during the entire fight. I should probably look up the name here. I don't know, even be hard to search while I'm trying to do this live and talk at the same time. But if you guys want to search it out, it probably shouldn't be too hard to find. Just search, I don't know, like green screen fight organization or something. And again, when they're fighting and you see the camera angles, it actually looks like they're fighting in that Mortal Kombat arena. That's what I was expecting here for the UFC stream broadcast, that there'd be this cool stuff that they're doing in between, which, again, I'm not poo-pooing on this. This is cool. I just thought they would do it so it's incorporated more during the actual walkouts as well as the actual fights as well. Because the thing, if you go and put this on like Fight Pass a year from now, and usually they cut out the walkouts on most of those fights unless you watch the full event, it's just going to look like you're watching any other fight. You legit can't tell any difference when their actual fights are going on. Like I thought where they're walking out now in the hallway, they would have done like a green screen there and made it so, again, kind of like match the environment where they have on the big screen. Then they could make it so it looks like they're walking out of that environment. And this is just literally something I thought of off the top of my head while I was complaining about it on Twitter earlier. With 9 months and $20 million of effort put in, sorry, I'm going to die on this hill. I will die on this hill. They could have done better. If they hadn't hyped it up at all, and we're just like, oh, we're doing an event at a Sphere, and I tuned in, I'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. But with all the hype, the craziest thing you've ever seen, the best live sporting event in history, it's going to blow people away. You'll never believe what we do. I don't know. I find this pretty believable.
I don't know what Chev looks like here. It doesn't look like,
she looks
fired up, but
yeah, I was going to say,
maybe I'm misinterpreting.
Usually when she fights, she almost has like that Mirko Cro Cop back in the day, like that straight Terminator focus where she kind of has that intimidating look about her. She looks almost like annoyed or almost uninterested, almost like deflated. You're right, Liam. She has a very, very interesting composure right now. In terms of playing armchair psychologist, sometimes it can legitimately matter, but a lot of times it's just BS. You're trying to guess, but it is always interesting for me when a fighter looks a particular way every single fight, and then they look different.
You never know, right? With Brian Ortega, he had me scared to death that time, and then he ended up coming through aces. So
yeah, you had that leg injury.
It's always a crapshoot.
Thought he was done there. Honestly, I thought he looked better than what I expected him to look like, considering how poor a shape he looked in the weigh-ins and everything. So yeah, dude, her composure is very, very different than usual. I don't know if it's nerves or that is interesting. Curious to see how she starts the fight, if she comes out cold or not. If Grasso can get out to an early free lead, that would be big in a fight that could potentially be competitive down the stretch.
I agree.
So no official bets on this fight. Are we all picking Grasso, though? I went with decision.
Yep. I'm taking Grasso small. Again, I'd like to feel something. Last fight, I didn't even feel anything when I bet that one. So, but I had been leaning towards Grasso all week, and the line came down a little bit from where it was at, like minus 130 and minus 140. I wasn't going to take it there just because I've gotten it at plus 600 before. But I feel like oftentimes in this kind of iteration, I like to fade the older fighters, 36 and up type of deal. So, yeah. I've been there fading Val for a long time, and let's see if it works out again. She's a great fighter, but I thought I had predicted her downfall correctly a long time ago, and she's stuck around. She's been able to do the damn thing, but she went 40 minutes with Amanda Nunes. I pointed this out on my streams this week.
Durable
40 minutes
hell.
with Amanda Nunes, never got knocked down. She got knocked down by Alexa Grasso last fight. So maybe it's just an anomaly. I said that as well. It's always possible. But maybe it's the fact that she's been fighting professionally for like 20 years of her life. And eventually that bill comes due and, you can't take the shots the same. So.
Yeah, I mentioned how there's the stance that Shevchenko does that makes her easier to be knocked down, but the way that she fell, it did look like she was also stuck a bit. Like, I don't think it was purely off balance. I think she was actually hurt as well, like you're mentioning. And yeah, she went to decision twice with Amanda Nunes, 15 minutes and 25 minutes. And the second time especially was when Nunes was in her basically beast mode form where she was finishing everybody. And Shevchenko to survive there without ever being in any kind of danger of being rocked or anything really did show off her durability. So the fact that she got rocked in any regard by Alexa is definitely a bit of an eyebrow raiser. Also, one thing that was kind of surprising to me about that second fight is I had a similar mindset going into it as I do for this one, where Grasso younger, Shevchenko older, looked to be regressed in recent bouts. So I thought Grasso was going to win the second fight. It ended up being a draw, but overall, I thought the fight was just in general far more competitive than I thought. So I'm curious if I'm going to be off with that angle yet again, because I do have basically the same angle here. Grasso, younger, fresher, Shevchenko on the decline, should be even more decline than she was the last time, the extra time off after doing Ultimate Fighter and all that. So the angle is still the same for me, but again, the angle wasn't exactly right last time. So it should be more likely to be right this time, but very curious to see how this one goes. And it's probably one that we won't get that good of a sense early on of how it's going to go over the duration, unless it's Shevchenko just looking absolutely washed. I could definitely see, outside of her being totally washed, I could definitely see some momentum shifts throughout this one, trading rounds, that kind of thing. Grasso definitely, even here after the weigh-ins where she's put on the water weight again, still looks by far best shape of her career.
Yeah, she looks built in the shoulders now.
I was going to say her shoulders and arms, like her triceps too, like her arms from the front are actually wide. You see a lot of times female MMA fighters, even the ones who actually have defined triceps, their arms are very thin from the front. They're not wide. Her arms are actually getting wide. I like how they put the giant graphics there for the intros too. They didn't do that on the prelims, but they've been doing it for all the fights on the main card. It's cool.
I just got a sweatshirt special delivered during the show, so I got to put this on real quick.
Oh, okay.
It's chilly up in here with the AC.
That dude behind her has an absolute epic beard.
Locked in for the title fight. Not going to be shivering the whole time. Let's go. Shout out to everybody who's rocking with us live, by the way. We got a ton of people, that are tuning in tonight, and this is the first time that we're doing this. So really appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Really appreciate everybody who's given it a chance, and hopefully you guys get value from the stream live. If you guys have thoughts, comments, questions, go ahead and fire those off live in the chat. We're happy to address as many of those as possible as we're talking about the fights here live.
Also, I forgot to mention earlier, once the fights end, we'll be doing a small recap of the past fights, giving our thoughts on the event and all that. So it won't go too long since we'll have already been streaming for so long, but we will do a bit of a post-fight, post-card recap for those of you who maybe missed our thoughts on some of the earlier fights. And again, we will be doing these now live for every single UFC pay-per-view. This time, again, started an hour late for specific reasons, but going forward, we will be starting at the usual 10 p.m. Eastern time that the pay-per-views start at. We'll be going live for the whole 3-hour broadcast. That'll be, again, for every pay-per-view, and then we also have the new live betting service, which will be for every UFC card, including the prelims. For live
Nathan, no, Sean's fight is up next, brother. That's the main event of the evening. But thank you for your question.
I haven't even been looking at the chat. Actually, my current setup, I'm in the middle of a move, so I'm living literally out of a suitcase right now. I'm be moving in about 3 weeks now, moving states actually. So it's big production. So that's why I'm in front of what looks like an ISIS hostage video here, like I've been kidnapped and I'm pleading for my life to my family back home. But in the future, I will have an actual studio. I should pull up on my phone what my studio used to look like so people can see I'm not such a loser.
Well, never a worry. I can always hook you up with, comments from the chat. And I want to just shout out, we got Stimmy OG says, yo, Liam, appreciate you for being here, Stimmy. Jewish Better says, Edmund Golden Boy Shabazian loses Golden Boy. Zellhuber loses. Steve Mean Machine wins. Marab the Machine wins. Hey, hopefully that's a good omen, brother. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Thanks for that shout out. Lenny replies, says, looks worse than the Sphere in the prelims.
We got a fellow Sphere hater. What's up? I'm not the only one. By the way, this is what my old set used to look like. Nice office setup. Much better than this. All right, first round here of Grasso and Shevchenko. Number 3.
They're throwing pretty intense shots at the beginning of this fight.
Grasso's never really shown shin issues, but she also hasn't been hit hard by power punches for the most part.
A lot of feints early.
Yeah, especially from Grasso.
Oh, that was a good right hand from Shevchenko. Shevchenko's showing a little bit more efficiency of energy right now. I think Grasso's just got a little bit of nervous energy off.
I was going to say, Grasso looks very tense. Shevchenko looked bizarre pre-fight, like just totally different, but she looks totally herself now. She looks focused and on point. I'm not sure what the pre-fight was. That's why I said the armchair psychology stuff, it's hard to actually think it has a particular effect.
That was a couple good jabs from Grasso, though. Finally got some respect and got her to back up. Shevchenko's throwing back in hard combination, goes for the takedown, able to get it, tries to elevate the hips. Now Grasso goes to roll to an entanglement. She's looking for a guillotine here. She's trying to hip up. She's not going to be able to leverage this.
I'm glad she gave up on that armbar. That would have been foolish. She got her guard passed. It seems like Shevchenko on the feet, one thing I noticed with her, she seems to be waiting for Grasso to engage. And literally as soon as Grasso starts, Shevchenko is literally trying to beat her to the punch with an instant counter. Usually counters come after the punch is already in the middle of being thrown or already has actually even landed or missed. But she's looks like she's literally just sitting there tense at range, waiting for as soon as she sees Grasso initiate, she's trying to beat her. I saw it. She did it with at least 2, possibly 3 of her combinations, Shevchenko. I think that is
almost like a Jose Aldo. You stay coiled.
Jose Aldo was fantastic at that. He would roast to the ribs as well. It seems like that Shevchenko's strategy to counter the superior pocket hooks from Grasso that I was outlining earlier. I also noticed Shevchenko, after she threw those punches, was showing a more concerted effort to immediately disengage from the pocket. Again, unlike staying bladed like she was bladed the wrong way.
This triangle attempt has some life. She's trying to switch triangle armbar here.
Elbows past now. Elbows past the crotch.
See what I'm looking at, though? She's trying to get this triangle, and she's just trying to bait her with the armbar and disguise it so she pulls out too quick. But very active hips from Alexa Grasso. She's used the butterfly guard pretty effectively at this point to at least create some space and create some entanglements. Nicely done, though, by Shevchenko. Managed that well.
I thought she was going to pass it, actually. Well, she did those butterflies.
One thing I will say, too, about Grasso having the more active guard here, while, yes, as you're mentioning, Balboa could get her past, especially that early armbar attempt she had, which was pretty bad, the first one a couple minutes ago. It is good because she lost portions on her back against Shevchenko in the other fights. If she has an active guard, even if she doesn't do anything, prevent Shevchenko from landing, and potentially maybe she could actually steal rounds where you still don't usually see judges give the fight to this fighter off of their back, but if we see, say, 2-3 minutes of striking, Grasso wins, followed by 2-3 minutes of Shevchenko going for the takedown but doesn't do anything.
Imagine fighting the girl 3 times in a row.
Say again? Your mic sounds all garbled. Anyways, as I was saying, if we see, Grasso winning, say, a couple of minutes of the striking, but then gets taken down like this and just gets laid on, potentially Shevchenko can steal that round. But if Grasso's active off of her back like she has been, it can actually block her stealing it. But she still has to, Grasso, do stuff in the other minutes on the feet. Very, very rare to see a fighter straight up win a round off their back. Need to be more, not more aggressive necessarily, but closer with your submission attempts than Grasso. She's been fairly aggressive. They've just been kind of half-hearted attempts.
This is a better look at the guillotine in terms of creating the right angle, but
yes,
he gets passed late in the round. Nicely done from Shevchenko, looking late in this round for some back exposure.
Should survive with only 7 seconds, but
this is definitely a round for Shevchenko.
Yeah, that was good by Shevchenko to steal it. And yeah, as you mentioned, good by Grasso to sit up on the angle with the guillotine there. Remember Joe Stevenson versus, this was so many years ago. It was like 10 years ago. More than 10. It was like literally 15 years ago. Who was it versus Yoshida or something? I don't remember. Joe Stevenson was on his back like that and going for the guillotines over and over and over, couldn't get it. Sat up at the angle just like she did and then instantly got it. So it is something sometimes fighters fail the guillotine over and over and then they adjust on that angle and almost catch their opponent off guard, who kind of get lazy with the defense. Is that a cut above Grasso's eye or a bruise?
No, she's just got a hematoma, a small one developing on her forehead. I think it was from an elbow from top position. It was a pretty good takedown entry from Val, I must say.
Nice,
great job trying to pass instantly off that.
Nice reactive takedown, and then jumped right over for the side mount attempt.
For me, I always felt that Alexa would need to take over this fight as it goes on. So the early start for Shevchenko looking great doesn't surprise me. What would surprise me here is if she can't start to rally back a little bit in round 2 and 3. So this is going to be a really important part of the fight, I think, for Grasso to get some respect back.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like I was saying pre-fight, I don't feel like we get a read of it from the first round who's going to win unless Shevchenko's just washed. I think we're probably in for some round trading. So if you're backing Shevchenko, great start. Don't get me wrong, fantastic start. Couldn't ask for much better than that. But I'm not confident yet that she'll be able to maintain it. I think her best strategy, honestly, is just like the first 2 fights, they'll go for the takedowns with how absolutely effortless it was, because it's worth noting she didn't catch Grasso completely off guard with that first takedown. Grasso got double underhooks and tried to shuck her off, just didn't work at all. Shevchenko drove right through it with absolutely zero resistance. So, I mean, when Grasso's getting in the proper position to defend the takedown and still getting taken down that easily, that is a very bad sign for her. And you see again, there you go, super easy takedown. But you see again when they were on the feet, Shevchenko looking for those instant reactive counters where before Grasso was even able to get midway through her first strike of the combination, Shevchenko's already looking to literally beat her to the punch. Very clear that is a strategic adjustment for her. And so far it's been working. There have not really been good pocket exchanges for Grasso, where in the first fight, Shevchenko was kind of sitting there for a little bit too long, hanging in there and getting caught with those hooks. Again, the quick counters and then the concerted effort to then quickly get back out of the pocket. I will say so far, very impressed with the strategic game planning from Shevchenko. Doesn't really seem to be like there's many adjustments from Grasso so far.
Yeah, I'm not loving that she's just so content to play flat on her back right now. She's just got her guard passed as well. Shevchenko's looking very heavy on top.
Yeah, it seems like she's getting a little bit away from the offensive guard and now is going for the body shots, not doing anything from her back. Just might as well try to scramble or retain guard or try to sweep back to your feet. At this point, we have to start seriously wondering with Alexa Grasso, is she ever going to actually have any kind of decent takedown defense? Because I'm sorry, at this point, it's kind of garbage. A fighter tries to take her down, they take her down. For those who missed it,
she's 31 years of age,
Yes, I don't think it's going to happen at this point. For those who missed it, we were talking in the pre-fight. She was taken down four times by Shevchenko the first time, 4 times the second time, 3 times in the fight before that against Arajo, 3 times versus Barber, multiple times by other opponents. Like, this is a career-long trend where she just gets taken down over and over as long as they try. And it's not like some of these fighters are great offensive wrestlers. Like Tatiana Suarez, okay, fine. You got
Whoa, much better job creating space here, and she's used it to create this triangle armbar dynamic. Shevchenko right now is doing a good job sitting onto her haunches, keeping good posture, but this could turn into something dangerous if she's not able to clear that arm line. Oh, it's
arm bars in front of the crotch this time.
That's she just kicked her in the head on the ground. That's illegal, and I don't think the ref cares. All right.
Oh, shucked her off there.
Yep.
Yeah, she
I was like, I'll officiate that one myself.
She lost the position with the legs, but unlike the first armbar attempt before, she had the arm actually passed inside the crotch this time. She actually could have actually threatened with that more, but messed up the foot positioning, and Shevchenko was able to shuck off. Shuck to the side, rather. Good job of Grasso there by not getting her back taken. Did a good job.
You know, this is huge for Grasso because she just created a really dynamic scramble. And I think that was a big energy expenditure, both in terms of getting out of the armbar, but also just the fact that she's like rolled around on the ground like this. It just seems to me like that's the kind of thing that could tax her energy system. But ultimately, she's got to get working if she wants to win the decision in terms of the scorecard, because she could be down too.
When they stood up, though, I agree with your sentiment, but when they stood up, Grasso took some massive deep breaths, like 2 of them. She's doing it right now on the ground too. She looked dead in the arms, had like the red face, like when you get the lactic acid going. And Shevchenko looked way fresher, then got an absolutely effortless takedown. Basically, Grasso went down.
She's in an inverted triangle here, but I don't know if she's going to be able to get torque on this. She's trying to go for a Kimura with it as well. Wow.
Yeah.
This is starting to create some more danger.
The Kimura is the most dangerous right now. The triangle
for sure.
That's on the side of the head.
So. No, she's going to lose the angle on the head. But the Kimura, she's trying to create an armbar situation as well.
Yeah.
Unable to do so.
Yeah, from the start with the triangle, she had the leg on the upper head. It was never on the neck. Wasn't creating the right pressure, but I thought maybe the Kimura might have been a threat.
She just punched herself in the knee. But now she got a couple good ground and pound shots from her back. Trying to be like Kevin Holland against Jacare right now.
Yeah. Andrei Arlovski.
And that's probably 2 rounds to Val. So
definitely.
Grasso needs to get working.
Andrei Arlovski paid a Pano back in the day. He was the original Jacare Souza versus Kevin Holland. He actually, Pedapano was going for a heel hook on him. Arlovski kicked him in the face on the ground, so the ref stopped it. And then as soon as the ref goes, okay, you can continue, Arlovski, while laying back, somehow does a sit-up and punches Pedapano and knocks him out in the face. One of the most absurd knockouts. If you've not seen that, look up during one of the fight breaks, Andrei Arlovski versus Marcio Cruz. It's from UFC in 2007 or something. I've been watching since 2003, so a lot of my references are old as dirt, sorry. I referenced Joe Stevenson from 12 years ago or something. I'm dating myself here. It's interesting. Shevchenko between rounds kind of goes back to that same almost sort of deflated looking mentality, but then as soon as the round starts, she's right back to hyper focus.
Yeah, I can't get a good read right now on her body language.
Yeah, it's very odd. I do think we got to be 2-0 for Shevchenko, though. Much like the other 2 fights, the time on the ground is just the difference. And Grasso, I mean, Jesus Christ, no answer for the takedowns. Some of the takedowns have not been that great of an entry from Shevchenko. She still got them effortless. Other ones were solid entry, but also great defense in terms of the applied technique by Grasso, and yet just bulldozed right through her regardless. It's one thing if she was, just catching her off guard, you'd be like, okay, she can adjust and maybe, do a better job of predicting the takedowns, then she can use her technique to defend. But when she predicts the takedown, properly defends, and still puts up 0, emphasis on 0 resistance, that is highly concerning. What's it been, 5 takedowns so far? 6? Something like that?
I think it's been 2. Or maybe 3. But
no, it's been
I think she only got up once.
She had 2 in the first round, I think 2 in the second round.
That could be right.
Someone asked in the chat, when is Sean and Rob? That will be the next fight after this. So if this one goes to decision, let's see, what time is it? This pay-per-view is going to go over for sure. maybe around 30 minutes for that fight. I'm sure they're going to have a bunch of, you know, fancy intros and everything for that. Hopefully they go all out with the walkouts or something for that one.
Grasso is just not coming out of her shell right now enough. You know, she's kind of being a little bit tepid. She's holding center, but
She's
not
been
being very
tense from the
assertive
start.
with her volume.
Yeah, she's been tense from the start. It's reminded me of the second performance where I thought she was going to do better there. Better than she did. It's interesting because Shevchenko has clearly shown signs of regression in her recent fights. Kind of turned back the clock the last one, and so far seems to be turning back the clock here as well.
I mean, Alexa Grasso, 10 significant strikes through half the fight. It's
Half
kind
the
of
round.
baffling to me. Wow, she just got head kicked as well.
Was it half the round, right? 10 significant strikes? It wasn't half the fight, was it?
I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's only landed 10 significant strikes in this fight. She's spent most of the fight on her back.
Yeah, she's done barely nothing offensively. Start counting, I guess, significant strikes that she landed in the very brief time they were clinched or on the ground. She landed, I guess, some body shots from her back. But isn't a significant strike a strike from range? Isn't that what they technically define it as? There's literally no resistance on those takedowns. I mean, I feel like my mom could take down Alexa Grasso. This is like, it's one thing to go
Comically bad.
It's one thing to go out there and get taken down. It's one thing to go out there and your opponent just has a brilliant game plan where they're just hitting the perfect reactive takedowns, feinting, getting you to throw the overhand right, ducking under when your hips are out of balance. That's one thing. She's basically fallen over. Just go like that and she's done. Just poke her and she falls over. But again, the angle was there going in for Shevchenko, as I mentioned, all the times Grasso's been taken down. But this is the worst performance in terms of takedown defense, I think, of Grasso's career. Want them to put up the takedown.
I mean, this is just pitiful to watch.
Yeah, this is from Grasso. I mean, this is just.
She's getting mounted now.
Yeah, full mount.
I mean, she just has no answers seemingly, and
back to butterfly. Good job there. That was actually a very good job of her to shrimp back to half guard, then butterfly guard. Maybe she can hit a sweep here or get back to her feet, elevate with the butterflies. If she's trying, she just doesn't have the strength. It seems like it's only not even at the end of round 3. Grasso normally great cardio. It seems like she's pretty winded here. I think these heavy grappling from the early going and all the attempted submissions, I think it's actually taken more of a toll on Grasso. It makes sense to an extent, obviously. The fighter on the bottom would be more fatigued, but this is a drastic difference.
I mean, she's just getting smushed like a bug, you know?
This is like a one-sided fight completely. This is the best performance of Shevchenko versus Grasso so far by a mile. First fight, she was winning before the rear naked choke, but it wasn't like this. Second fight, she should have won outside of the bad. Oh, there's backline again. Oh, she get the other hook in. Body triangle. Oh, Grasso almost spun out. Trying again. Might actually be able to. Oh, round's over. Looked like she might have been able to eventually spin out there. She was getting close. I mean, I'm sorry. That's 3 clear rounds for Shevchenko. Unless Grasso lands a nuke here in the last 2 rounds, that's a donezo for her. Also, gotta say, Grasso's corner, terrible body language. They're all just like mopey. Look at him.
Except Diego Lopes.
I don't know. He looks mopey too.
He had a smile on his face when he looked at the camera, but
Did he?
yeah, he also has a bunch of cuts and scars and everything. So
He might be a
how
little
happy can he look? He's like, I just got fucked up.
I'd like to see them, a little rah, get your fighter going. Who's had, again, she's had some other bad performances like Tatiana Suarez. I'm not going to fault her for, but this is relative to the moment, relative to the opponent. This is the worst, flattest performance of Grasso's career. When she fought Felice Herrig, that was the previous worst. She was a favorite there, totally underperformed, fought very much like this, looked completely tense, could not get her hands going, just seemed to be afraid to let go, just could not pull the trigger on anything. Very reminiscent of this fight. That's the only other one I can think of where you watch it and go like, that was just a straight up bad performance. Not, okay, you got beat by a high quality fighter who just happened to be better. That was just a straight up bad performance that she absolutely should have won. Maybe she should have gone on to lose this fight. Obviously, Shevchenko's a very elite fighter, but to look this flat, this is surprising. I mean, just look how short she comes up on these
And
strikes.
also,
Even if
you
they
would
have
just
to
think
play.
it's the ultimate motivation spot at the Sphere, co-main event,
Mhm.
huge opportunity. Seal the deal on being better than a championship level fighter. This guillotine has some life to it, but I don't know that she has enough squeeze to get
Well, that
this
does
one
have
out.
life. She could. Oh, she's switching. She should try to
I
get full
don't think
guard.
that she's going to be able to leverage this hip. She's on the wrong
Chin's
side
in.
now.
Chin's in already. She has to get back under the chin.
Oh,
There's a brief moment where, and it's arm in too. I didn't realize it was an arm in. Yeah, there's a brief moment there where she had it under the chin at the start, but Shevchenko, to her credit, has done a very good job with subtle submission defense, angling her head to slip out of the triangle, angling her chin to get it in there.
She had to just roll flat back. This is getting tight.
Oh, this is actually, I was going to say, now it looks like it's under the chin again. Nope, on the chin again? Nope, no, her first face is turning purple. She might have this. It's tough to tell. She's throwing little pitter-pat punches.
Oh, it looks like she's grabbing inside the glove, but
it looks like it shouldn't be choking her, but her face is turning legit purple. It looks like there's plenty of space and the grip is not tight. Yeah, she's getting out of it, I'm pretty sure here. Yeah, now her face is turning back to normal. It's on the edge of her chin right now, kind of like right here. And you can see where Grasso has her arms clasped. There's space on the other side of the neck right now. She has to get that fully under the chin and then get it like that. At least get her wrist right under there, but yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing is like she had switched to the body triangle at that point. It's already done.
Yeah.
You kind of need to be leveraged on one hip in order to finish that one. And if not, you need to get on top and not get rolled all the way through. You got to hold that top position so you can hip down. And unfortunate, she had a very good opportunity there. That was her best opportunity of the fight. And unfortunately, it just did not come to fruition for her.
Arm triangle attempt from Valentina, it looks like. At least the early stages of it. She could go for it. I mean, Grasso's not really seemingly trying to resist it. So obviously have to hop over the other side. But now maybe she's trying to get in position for it. She's got to get that arm on the side of Grasso's head. Grasso's right arm. She's got to get in this position, or preferably more like that. But if Grasso's going to defend, she'll try to go like that. You see, Shevchenko keeps trying to push that elbow up to try to get her. There it is, arm triangle position. Right
Shevchenko has this finished.
It's on the face, maybe not. Yeah, she's going to spin out. Maybe she can switch to a rear naked, though.
Oh, wow. Grasso fought out of that beautifully. When she switched to that rear naked choke grip, that is my favorite grip in jiu-jitsu. I feel like it's absolute money. But because she wanted to retain the top position, she prioritized that and kind of let it go. She was thinking about stepping off to the side with it. You could go to knee on belly with that rear naked choke grip, head and arm. It's absolutely brutal.
If I'm going against someone fat, I can do the rear naked choke grip. But because my reach is 87 inches, I cannot do rear naked choke grip from most positions. They just have infinite space. Like, look how much space is there.
I understand. Wow, this is a heavy top mount from Shevchenko.
I could do the ninja choke.
Oh, we are 5 minutes away from Shevchenko being champion again, which is a really disgusting feeling.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer Grasso as champ, although I'm not.
I'm not a Shevchenko fan. I respect her, but I'm just, I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan of anyone. They're all just data points to me. I'm not. People always, who's your favorite fighter? I don't have any. And people think I'll hate on some fighter because I'm critical. I don't. I genuinely don't hate any fighter. Like, I don't even have a negative emotion. I've been betting for 15 years, watching the sport for 20. I have specifically over the years intentionally tried to make myself as robotic about the fighters as possible. And now at the point, I'm full robot about them. I don't have, about other sports, team sports, and that I have my teams and stuff. But with MMA, they're data points. So I more look at just the the general, I guess, setting of the division and stuff. We've seen Shevchenko reigning for so long. I would have preferred a fresher champion, but I don't have anything personally against Shevchenko.
Yeah, me either. I just hate that she robbed me of the Italian units at plus 450. That was gross, but other than that, she's fine.
I mean, Grasso at this point either lands an absolute nuke or gets some kind of choke, maybe an armbar. This seems pretty much a done deal, but obviously never say never. She did get the rally the first time. Don't forget, round 4. She was on her way to losing that one as well. Thanks again to the now just about 4,000 of you watching, 3,995. Again, we'll be doing these regularly for every single UFC pay-per-view going forward, live, starting with the 10 p.m. start time of the main cards. Every UFC pay-per-view. Live here on YouTube as well as on X, formerly Twitter. So please hit the like and subscribe, comment, the chat's going strong here. And then we'll also be live after the event wraps to give our post-fight thoughts. And when we do the post-fight thoughts, we'll be taking more of your guys' questions. Obviously, a bit hard for us to read questions, watch the fights, and talk all at the same time. We can only keep our eyes in so many places at once. But after the fight card is over, we'll definitely be getting to your guys' questions in the chat. Grasso is definitely coming out more aggressive, more concerted effort to be the one moving forward. Before she was just kind of seemed to be fine just taking the center. She is mostly in the center here, but you can tell she's just pressing a little bit more than she did in the other rounds. I mean, if I'm her, I'm just loading up on power shots on the feet. That's your only hope here. Four rounds to 0. You know Shevchenko has a very solid chin. Obviously, again, knocked her down last time out, but it's going to take a big shot to actually get the knockdown or anything beyond that. I mean, at this point, it's sell-out time. Risk getting hit with a big shot yourself, risk getting knocked out, and just try to land the home run hit. That's what you have to do here. Good 1-2 from Shevchenko. Again, it's what I mentioned earlier, where she's looking for Grasso to engage and then immediately load up with the instant counter before Grasso's strike even lands or misses. If you're Grasso, the counter to that is to feint with a very good feint, not just she's just doing kind of like these kind of feints, just kind of twitching her arms. Throw a legit feint where you're actually torquing your body a bit to get Shevchenko to actually think that you're throwing the strike. Then Shevchenko throws her counter, then you counter the counter. This is what you'll see elite level strikers do. They'll pick up on that, read their opponent, and then adjust. Grasso, zero adjustment in that regard. The same little, like, just slight twitchy feints. Oh, Grasso, full mount. Here we go. 3 minutes to go. Does she get the, oh, great job by Shevchenko to spin out of that and get back to her feet. Use the cage to her advantage there, legally, and then immediately gets an easy takedown with the body lock. Grasso needs to wall walk here. You can see she's trying to post with the arm to get there, and you can see that Shevchenko trying to pull the arm down, now just trying to hop on the back as she stands, letting her post. Good job of Grasso using her lower back to kind of bump her off of her and get back to space, but 2 minutes, 40 seconds, you got to go for broke here, and Shevchenko is still the one landing the harder, cleaner shots. Effortless takedown off of the kick, perfectly timed. Grasso tried to roll her there with double overhooks, did not work, but she did get back to her feet. Double overhooks here again. John Jones hit a sick throw on Stephan Bonner, and I think it was his second UFC fight with the double overhooks in the clinch, threw him right over him, lateral drop. But Grasso, I don't think, has that type of strength or ability to do that to Shevchenko. I definitely would not have been surprised if you told me Shevchenko won the decision going into this. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me 5-0 Shevchenko. Like, Grasso couldn't even sneak one round.
I just said something almost word for word, exactly like that.
What they said on the broadcast?
No, which is what you just said, which is like, I can believe that she lost this fight. That makes sense to me, but her getting completely audited for 5 rounds, that is a surprise to me.
I'm sure that happens to you guys a lot too, where the commentators repeat what you say. It's always good if you're with other people and that happens. It's like the easiest way to get casuals impressed. Oh, wow, they said the same thing you did.
Man. I mean, hats off to Shevchenko. She fought a great fight. She did what she needed to do. But Alexa Grasso, I don't know that she'll be back in these opportunities. She's a young enough woman that maybe she could, but I don't know that she ever really broke through in terms of that star power. And, to go out there and lose this fight in this fashion, it's a big setback for her.
At this point, it's kind of safe to say her title reign was a fluke. She fought some of the better fighters in the division, lost to them, then beat other fighters in the division, earned a title shot, was losing the first fight, got the Rally Miracle rear naked choke. Then she was on her way to losing the second fight, should have lost it, got a Miracle 10-8 in the third round to get a draw. Now in the third fight, absolute domination, complete one-way traffic, not even a prayer over 25 minutes from Grasso. I guess the somewhat close choke attempt, but that was it, the guillotine. So, I mean, we're not, rear naked choke potentially. No, it's totally on the chin. It's not going to happen in the 7 seconds here. I mean, we're now looking at, they fought a total of what now? 70-something minutes, almost 70 minutes. What was it? The second fight ended in round 4, so almost 70 minutes here. How many of those minutes has Alexa Grasso won? Not many.
Not many.
Like I said pre-fight, my angle for this one, the reason why I didn't bet Grasso, but I picked her, was the same angle for the last fight. Shevchenko showed the signs of regression, thought she would further show it in the rematch with Grasso. Didn't happen. Thought after a year away, the Ultimate Fighter, she would at least show it here now at 36. Still didn't show it. That is definitely impressive from her. She seems to have turned back the clock because, again, at one point she did show the regression, but the angle was completely off in terms of the youth advantage for Grasso. Absolutely did not play a factor whatsoever.
I think that from a pair of teammates, Alexa Grasso and Irene Aldana turned in the 2 worst title fights from 2 teammates I've ever seen.
Yeah, from teammates. I can't think of.
Absolutely horrific.
Well, hold on. Hold that thought. We have Aljamain Sterling's teammate Merab at the main event. Sterling, all-time bed-shitting performance where he literally charges face first at Sean O'Malley with his hands down and his chin literally is raised as far as he could go, and then just head straight out of center line. Even Sean said after the fight, he was like, in the moment while it was happening, I was like, wait, he's not really doing this, is it? It must be like a fake out or a feint, or he's going to go for a takedown or something. And then he's like, oh, wait, it's happening. And then he went for it. It's like, even Sean was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Merab did that against Cejudo. Merab did that against Marlon Moraes. Merab does it every fight. Sean O'Malley's better at the single shot nuke than those fighters. So if Merab just goes out there and in 2 minutes just runs with the chin up straight on the center line, we may have 2 title fights with 2 teammates putting in a worse performance than Grasso and Aldana.
You remain hopeful, eh?
Hopeful? I want Merab to win. I bet him.
I know. I'm kidding. I'm saying.
Hopeful.
Hopefully we have some wishful thinking, some better results at least,
The Shevchenko fight I had no action on, but I predicted Grasso by decision. So, like I said, my angle was the youth. Totally wrong in that. Can't make any excuses there. Just got to hold that L. It's the same thing with Merab and Sean in the main event. Like I just mentioned, that nuke is a possibility. Merab's path to victory is going out there and using his pace and cardio, weaponizing it to win a decision or possibly a late stoppage. But if he goes out there, he's winning round 1 for 4 minutes, or he's winning round 1 and into round 2, and then the nuke happens, I know, watch, you'll see. You're going to see the Merab bettors on Twitter being like, oh my God, bad beat, what bad luck, he was winning, he was dominating, what a fluke. No, that is literally, let's just pretend you think it's 60-40 Merab, you think Sean O'Malley wins 40%. Almost 100% of the 40% of the time that he wins is going to be like that. And he's probably not going to win the minute-to-minute, round-to-round aside from that. So there's a very real chance that Merab is winning and then loses by stoppage from a rally from O'Malley. That is built and baked into the stylistic matchup here. If that happens, again, Merab bettors, including myself, cannot cry sour grapes. Maybe if it's like 4 rounds to 0, 1 minute away from the end of the 5th, and then it happens, okay, maybe that's a little a little tough, but you have to know. It's again like Gilbert Burns last week. Recently, I bet him, and he obviously was very washed from the get-go. You could see 2 minutes in. That was the known thing going in. I cannot sit here and be like, man, bad beat on Gilbert Burns. It's a different dynamic here, but the same exact aspect in terms of I know people are going to try to cry sour grapes if it goes that way. It's very important as a bettor to understand when a bet actually was a bad beat or bad luck or a fluke, which does happen. It's very important to know when that does happen and realize your analysis on the matchup was still accurate. It's also very important to know when you were just simply wrong and you need to adjust. Much like Shevchenko made adjustments to the specific things that gave her trouble, particularly in the pocket from Grasso the first time. Well, if she just had the mentality, oh, it was a fluke, it was luck, I don't need to change anything, she wouldn't have made those adjustments. And actually, in fact, speaking of that, you saw between the first fight and the second fight, she did say that it was basically a fluke, and she didn't make adjustments to the second fight. She still should have won it, but there wasn't any adjustments. This fight, I guess, after the draw and almost being knocked out there, she did finally make those pocket adjustments. So, again, goes to show that mentality. If you're saying things are a fluke and bad luck, you're hurting yourself more than anyone else because you have to have a proper, realistic understanding of what just happened so you know if you need to adjust or not. Post-fight analysis is just as important as pre-fight analysis when it comes to betting, because the post-fight analysis dictates your thoughts going forward, which dictate your thoughts towards the next bet on or against that fighter.
Man, I definitely thought Shevchenko still had a title future. I just thought it was at 135 pounds, and she shut me right the hell up. Just fantastic look tonight, and went out there with a much younger woman and absolutely dominated. Shout out to Kristen in the chat, says Val big sistered her for 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
There's literally no arguing with that.
Dude, I was going to read that before. I was going to say, dude, that is the perfect way of saying, like, in every regard, it just looked like bigger, stronger, faster, better, just superior across the board. That was one of the more dominant title fight losses for the champion that you'll see. There's been some dominant ones. I'd say probably the most dominant that will maybe ever go down in MMA history, John Jones when he beat Shogun. Holy mother of God, that is an absolute ridiculous slaughter. One of the biggest beatdowns, period, in UFC history. But the fact that Jones was the challenger there, Shogun the defending champion, Jones was also the youngest potential title holder if he were to win that fight, which he did, of course. It's just like all the makings there were not for John Jones to go out there and dominate like that. Also, he was an underdog in the odds, I think. It was close either way. Maybe he was a slight favorite. I don't remember. I know it was close at least. I think he actually was a slight favorite. I think Jones was actually like minus 140. I think the only time in his entire career he was the underdog was against Stephan Bonner in his second UFC fight. I think he was like a 2-1 dog there. Oh, yeah, Usman versus Tyron Woodley, as someone points out in the chat. Sorry from you, I can't read your name. It's too small print. Yeah, Usman versus Woodley that was rough stuff. That was kind of actually like Grasso here, where just a listless performance, just standing there doing nothing, waiting to be taken down.
Yeah, if you can come up with an Usman teammate that went out there and did nothing, then that's definitely a candidate. Or excuse me, a Woodley teammate.
Anthony Pettis has had some rough performances. Were any of them in a title fight? I guess him against.
I mean, he got audited by RDA for sure.
Yes, I was going to say against RDA. That was up there. That was one-sided beatdown, complete and total. Excuse me, beatdown. I guess there's one other teammate combination, sort of teammates. I mean, kind of trained together. Woodley would pop in and out of there, but not full time. Someone asked in the chat, is Merab by decision the ultimate hedge for O'Malley bettors?
I don't think so, personally, just because I think, if this fight gets into rounds 4 and 5, I think there's a good chance Merab is taking over and, he could just get on top and beat him up. I think people, have an impression of Merab, like not being able to hold people down, but Petr Yan offered him a ton of resistance and he also shut down his leg in that fight. And that's been a persistent problem for O'Malley. So I think that he could shut down the leg. I think he could take him out with the hands late in the fight, like ground and pound. He's gone out there and done a number on like Marlon Moraes. If you look at that fight, he threw so many strikes in a fight that ended in 7.5 minutes. So He's just a guy that goes out there and works at a very high pace rate, and that might be able to drain O'Malley enough to take him out of the fight.
I picked Merab by decision. That's my most likely path to victory for him, although I do think there is a very real chance for him to get a stoppage, not just an outside chance, but a real chance. I still, again, favor decision, but a couple things there. One, the weaponization of the pace and cardio by Merab, unlike anything you really ever see in MMA, period, let alone anything like O'Malley has seen. O'Malley also not really been in fights where he has to face that kind of onslaught, except for the Petr Yan fight. Petr Yan, not the wrestler or cardio or pace machine that Merab is, as we saw when they fought. And if he was able to do that to Sean, what would Merab potentially be able to do, especially down the stretch? So the cardio and pace just in general for Merab might be able to do it down the stretch, especially if he gets it going early and can just wear Sean down. But the other thing, I don't think Sean is durable. The body shot from Cheeto almost finished him at the end of their fight in the rematch. Cheeto did knock him out, of course, in their first fight with an elbow from guard, full guard. When do you ever see a fighter get finished from full guard in modern MMA? It's so incredibly rare, with strikes that is. I know there was the leg injury there before for O'Malley that didn't affect his guard, A, and B, that leg injury just goes to the lack of durability for his overall body. As we also saw against Sukumtath when they fought, Sukumtath could have just let him up, and the ref would have had to stop it by TKO because O'Malley literally could not stand. Sukumtath, literally all-time worst fight IQ you'll ever see in a fight pair. All he had to do was let him stand, and it was an automatic TKO win. He kept going to the ground with him and then ended up losing a decision. So this is
My boy Edgar Chairez gave him a run for his money. I'll tell you that.
This is several fights now that we've seen from O'Malley have serious issues with his durability. Not necessarily so much the chin. Jan rocked him, but it was a massive shot. So in terms of the durability overall from the body from O'Malley, if he's just getting ragdolled for 5 rounds, outpaced, out-cardioed, big body shots on the ground and that, because Merab, he's not a great positional grappler. It's a lot of take you down, you get up, take you back down again, you get up, and just wears you out that way. I don't think O'Malley can sustain cardio for 25 minutes like that. And if that's happening, if he doesn't land the nuke himself, there's a real chance Merab could pour it on and get the finish late. I think it is not 50-50. I do favor a decision, but I don't think that a stoppage late is, again, an outside chance or unlikely. I think there's a real chance. Maybe like, I would say about 2/3 of the time that Merab wins, I would say decision. 1/3 of the time, a late stoppage.
Yeah, so ultimately, I would look for the 4-5 decision if it's available in your jurisdiction as one potential angle, or just the money line. It's a very closely lined fight. If you like that side, you could just play the money line and hope it works out your way. But certainly, you got to know the risk going in. He could get knocked out in the first 2 rounds, but that's just the way it is. If you're looking for a hedge, there is no easy hedge on this one. The easy hedge was to get O'Malley at plus 130 or whatever he opened, and then Merab at plus 118 when he peaked. There you go.
It was minus 198, I think, on the opener for Merab, something like that.
Maybe somewhere offshore. I saw on Bet Online like a minus 140 something, I think, but either way, very similar. Man, Mexico went 1-6, just absolutely atrocious. And I will just say this one note, and not to be insulting, right? I'm just making an observation, but John Anik has given credit and praise before to Grasso, like the senior, Grasso senior, who coaches Lopes, who coaches Irene Aldana, and who coaches Grasso. And I gotta say, Grasso and what's her name, Aldana, had 2 of the worst game plans. Even tonight, like I know the Aldana Nunes fight was bad, but even tonight, Aldana had no concept of cutting off the cage, doing anything to prevent that circular motion. And they had, several rounds to adjust and didn't. So a couple of things, like you want to always note when people do well, right? Like you gave credit to the referees before, but they've gotten a lot of credit in the lead up to this. And frankly, we got to take them back to reality. Maybe that camp, maybe that gym, maybe that situation is not as good as we thought. Maybe the whole, Mexico push from the UFC, despite all the investment, it's just not working out right now because they put a lot of people in opportunities, positions to win tonight, and they've fallen flat.
Did this happen the last no-J card too? Didn't Mexicans not do so great?
Yeah, I think Zellhuber won and a few others, but I don't think it was a perfect outing last time either.
One thing also worth noting about the coaching angle, Lopez, I thought he fought pretty poorly too in terms of his game plan. He mostly just kind of won in spite of it. There was no adjustments down the stretch. He just
just had a huge durability edge.
Yeah. and speed advantage too. For the most part, he kind of slowed down in periods, but generally he was faster, more powerful, more durable.
Yeah, it looks like Merab's going to close the favorite.
Oh, also, yeah, I pulled up the odds. It was minus 198 that he opened, plus 164 for O'Malley. I was shocked when it opened that high. Again, I picked Merab. I favor him, but I favor him by a small margin. He might make it look dominant if he wins, because again, O'Malley lands the nuke where he doesn't really have too much to do here. So if he doesn't land the nuke and he doesn't win, it's probably going to look like Merab should have been minus 500 or something. But when you look at their overall, real results, if you're safe, have them fight a million times, O'Malley, at the times he loses, again, probably looks like he should have been a huge underdog. But the times he wins, the big knockout early, probably looks like he should be a big favorite. So it's one of those matchups where whoever wins probably looks like they should have been a huge favorite. But I do think that long term, the odds properly should be relatively close. And sometimes people, it's very strange in their analysis. They think that if a fight you think is close in terms of the winners, then that means that the fight actually will take place in a close manner as well, which is not at all how it goes. They're oftentimes unrelated. Think if you have the best BJJ guy going against the best KO artist, and neither of them have any kind of wrestling. It's kind of a 50-50 fight, right? Whoever gets it in their place probably going to get a finish in round one. If the KO guy goes out there, knocks him out in a minute, you're going to go, oh, man, should have been minus 1,000. If he gets taken down in a minute and gets tapped instantly, oh, other guy should have been minus 1,000. That's people's mentality, when really it's a 50-50 fight. You have them fight 100 times, 1,000 times, a million times. They probably win 50%-ish each.
We're showing some pretty cool graphics right now of the O'Malley rise.
Yeah, I like how they have the different things on different screens. Oh,
they're making use of different screens now within the screen. That's kind of a cool look.
Sterling just head up, just charging.
What's that?
They just showed the Sterling highlight of in slow-mo of him just drop my hands and then just move forward into the strike.
That was a tough look for him.
That was rough.
The New York boys did not teach them how to wrestle that day.
No. It's cool to do the different videos in each of the screens, and also even when it's the fighter being interviewed, the different camera angles from different sides. I still don't understand why they had to sandbag so much for the prelims. Did it really cost this much to do this video? They couldn't have done this for the prelims? 20-something million?
I think part of it is maybe trying to make this feel special for this last one, but yeah, it's definitely it's something that he said they're only doing one time, right? So
yeah, dude, the quotes, and again, Dana White always overhypes everything. Power slap's going to be the biggest sport in the world. And I get it. I didn't think it was going to be as good as Dana said, but $20+ million, a year basically of hype, calling it the biggest thing the UFC's ever done, the craziest event they've ever done, the best sporting event in lifetime. It's I'm sorry, this is cool, but this is not seeming like $20 million or a year worth of hype type of stuff. Again, I genuinely enjoy this, but you have to have it relative to the expectations. I had lower expectations significantly compared to what the UFC was hyping, and I still think it kind of under-delivered even on them. Again, I thought there'd be more immersion with the walkouts, the actual in-cage stuff. This stuff's all very cool. I just don't see how it costs 20-something million.
I feel like if you were in person, it would be really cool, but I do think that a lot of it is probably lost from the viewer experience at home, because it then just feels like you're watching a really cool, cool effects from a film, things like that.
Yeah. And then, like I said,
I see what you're saying.
With the fights, it just looks like any other fight when they're in person. So again, want to be clear, I'm not saying this is all horrible and lame and a disaster. The prelims were very lame. I will stand by that. But the stuff's cool. It's just it's the UFC's fault, though. Don't hype this up as to be the greatest sporting event anyone's ever seen in their lifetime. Again, I didn't expect it would be that, but don't be saying those things when it's if they promoted this as hey, we're going to do this one-off event at the Sphere. It's going to be cool. We're going to do some different stuff. Tune in. And then they did this. People would be like, oh my God, this is awesome. But I'm not the only one on Twitter and stuff being it's cool, but could have done more.
Balboa, do you have anything on this fight, brother?
He bet Marab, I think. Did he
Oh,
die
cool.
again?
That is possible.
He died early. That's why we didn't have any live bets earlier. He's having an issue dealing with someone else. It's not his fault. So, someone in the chat says everyone praising it online. There's definitely some people praising it, particularly the UFC people, the journalists who are always, basically the UFC mouthpiece who say nothing but praise 24/7 about it. I've seen them saying it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen in their entire life, even better than the birth of their children. But as far as the regular fans out there, I see a lot of sentiment like me of people going, cool, but definitely expected more, thought he could have done more. I mean, one concern I had was I didn't know how much they could really leverage the Sphere anyways. However, if you look at some of the concerts they've done, the Sphere that is, not the UFC, of course, they've done some cool things with the graphics, kind of blurring the lines between the reality and the screen. I thought the UFC could do some more immersive stuff. It's basically just, hey, here's a giant video screen, and then for about 20 seconds before the fight, you can see there's a background. Again, cool when you see it. I just thought that they could have done a lot more, especially considering the hype and the money. I would say overall the main card production is good, like in terms of what they hyped it for. The prelims, though, I still stand by that was disappointing. But I do think the main event is actually genuinely pretty cool.
Kate Price in the chat says that he thinks it looks cool if he was there, but it doesn't mean anything to him when he's watching at home, which I kind of understand where he's coming from. I will say that it definitely looks different than a normal UFC right now, and that is important. For me, one of the things that Pride and, just like MMA of the past used to have a lot of was characters, these kind of cool moments, cool big shows, pyrotechnics, whatever it was to make it feel like an event. And a lot of the UFC does feel like conveyor belt, cafeteria food. And this has definitely felt like a diversion from that. So I like to see that. But certainly there was a lot going on thematically, right? The Riyadh season, the Noche, the Sphere, like everything kind of melded together. And I do think maybe they tried to just have too many irons in the fire. I feel like the Sphere in and of itself is cool. And maybe they should have just ran it as like, this is an awesome one-time event. I don't know that it needed the other ancillaries around it, because I feel like that's kind of sucked some of the air out of the room on some of these wins. Is like, a love letter to Mexican people, and they get embarrassed all night. It's just, that's got a little tough.
What was I going to say? I was going to say before, like, I was kind of curious how they would leverage it for the actual broadcast, because obviously there's, however many thousands of people in the actual arena, but the vast majority of people, of course, are going to be watching it online, or TV, whatever. So I expected that they would actually do more for the live broadcast for the people at home, but it seems basically what they're doing is just kind of going, hey, here's a wide angle where you can see we have a big screen. Like, again, we've been hearing about this card for a year. Someone in the chat said, so Dana's not getting that Oscar then? Keep in mind, Dana White said this is going to be such an amazing sporting event, unlike anything ever seen in human history, that he was going to get an Oscar for this.
They did have a hologram Marab just standing there. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it just in the middle, just rotating. Like, I'm sorry, this is not Oscar worthy. If he gets an Oscar, I don't know who they paid off, but I do think some people are kind of misconstruing our thoughts, so we're saying, oh, this is terrible. It's not terrible. It's cool. We're happy that it's different. It's just the UFC sold this as something so incredibly different than just, little graphics here and there.
Yeah, I'm definitely not hating. I mean, it's been interesting. I feel like, I almost would give it a second viewing before I, have like a super strong opinion, but it's nice to have something that's different. It's nice to have a little diversion, but you do just wonder, like, could it have been done better? Things like that. I think they're going to ask themselves the same questions, it's hard to pull something like this off. And so I think they're going to learn from this in the future. But
yeah, too bad it's only a one-off thing. And part of the reason it's one-off is because they have a contract that prevents them from ever doing shows here. They're strictly required to do the T-Mobile Arena due to a contract with them. And the T-Mobile Arena instead gave Mexican Independence Day to Canelo, so the UFC was able to negotiate having this one-off event. So it's one-off for now. Maybe in the future they would do it again and maybe not put 20+ million into it. I don't know. Someone in the chat says even Ariel Helwani said that they would get nominated for an Emmy for this. To be fair, and Ariel's certainly no UFC shill, of course. To be fair, though, he is live at the actual show, so he's seeing it how it is in person. I'm sure it's much better in person, but at home, it's cool. It's just nothing all that crazy. Like, I wish every
this
UFC
is a
event
cool
was like
walk right
this.
now.
I wish that every UFC event was like this. Don't get me wrong; it's clearly an upgrade. It's just there's levels to this. It can be a nice upgrade that we're happy about, while also still underwhelming.
Man, this is a cool camera angle right here.
Yes, yeah, I wish they would do some more stuff like that. They had like a cool, I think it was during the co-main event, they had like a drone pan, it looked like, going around the arena. I don't think it was like a cable camera. It looked like it was an actual drone. I wish they showed more kind of that stuff. See, like if you're in the arena right now, like where these people are, I bet that looks dope as hell. Especially when they have like the other backgrounds going during the fights and stuff, where you're watching the fight in the cage, but you also can actually see the background on the TV screens during the fight. So like if you're in person, I'm sure it's, not even comparable to what it is over the TV. It's cool
Yo,
too.
this main event is about to get started, guys. If you're here rocking with us live, go ahead and drop a like on here. Go ahead and send what you've got for the main event right now. Whether you like a prop, whether you like a money line, whatever you're thinking about for these fights, go ahead and make your voice heard. I'm curious what you guys think about this one. One of the most contentious out there, right? It's going to close a virtual pick'em. I'm pulling up the odds board right now, so we have a reference point. But fascinating fight here, and it looks like on Bet Online right now, -118, Merab Dvalishvili, -102, Sugar Sean O'Malley, virtual pick'em territory, and the machine is slightly favored at close.
And also, anyone who posts their picks for this fight, I'll actually make it so they appear on the screen so you can get credit if they end up cashing.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I actually have no bets on this fight. I was thinking about taking Merab, but I just missed the best of it. To answer your question, Stimmy, Merab would be my pick at plus money. I feel like it should be a virtual pick'em. It's a virtual pick'em. Now you're being asked chalk for the privilege of sweating Merab not getting knocked out for the first 2 to 3 rounds here. I think he's going to have, dangerous moments. We've seen that against other fighters, but the left hook has been a common culprit for Merab in terms of what gets him. And I don't know that O'Malley's like a particular nasty left hooker. He tends to get off with a lot more linear attacks. So
yeah,
he could definitely bust up Merab, but the shot that Maurice and Henry caught him with is like a counter left hook.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit different than what I expect from O'Malley.
It was also very close. Like Merab's head was like this far away where you can't actually land a straight. It had to be a hook in those exchanges. So if O'Malley's going to catch him, he still moves with his head straight on the center line and his hands down, but it has to be before he gets that close. If it happens, it's not going to be the exact same sequence as Cejudo and Marlon. But I just hate how Merab. I bet him just an average size bet. I got plus money. I bet him twice. I got different plus money. It was like plus 124 and plus 118 or something like that. I'd have to look. But still combined just an average size bet. I was thinking that bet him now, and then the line had been moving so much the one way that maybe it'll actually get better, but it did not get better. So I actually got him the second time at a worse price. And then for the official bets, I believe Balboa, who is dead over there, been murdered on the broadcast apparently. I believe he has an official bet on Merab. Yes, he does.
Nice. So we're definitely rooting for you guys right here. And I'll be honest, man, I'm always a little bit biased, a little partial towards my guy Merab. Another Sarah
New Yorker
product, cash for me, plus 225 against Piotr Jan. That was one of my favorite bets ever because he went out there and just audited him for the full 5 rounds.
He's friends with a guy who's sort of a friend of mine, more of an acquaintance. I've heard some funny stories about when they go partying out in Vegas. He seems like people I'm sure already know this just based on, the videos he posts. He seems like a very fun, entertaining dude to be around. It is interesting how he was almost trying to sandbag going into the fight. He posted the cut that he got the stitches for, which by the way, you can actually still see kind of bad. I could definitely see that getting opened up in the fight. I thought it healed more than it did. He showed what looked apparently like staph on his arm. He said it wasn't, but it was a kind of a grainy picture, so can't say for sure, but definitely looked like it based on the picture. He was doing fake drinking one night, pretending to drink shots, which were, I guess, not real shots. So, excuse me, I'm not sure what that was all about. If it's just trying to be head games with O'Malley, try to make him think like the fight's going to be easier than it is. I'm not sure. But in terms of his physical shape, the way you look at the weigh-ins, this is the best Merab has looked. And it is worth noting we are no longer under USADA anymore. So definitely fighters are free to use some extra supplements that maybe they couldn't get away with under USADA. I know they still have drug testing, but it's not as stringent. So not going to ever make a straight up accusation, but it's just something you always have to know that is potentially possible. And when you see a guy go out there showing up in better shape than before, it's something that definitely crosses my mind, at least. Again, not strictly accusing anyone of anything.
I just shared with you, I don't know if you could see it on your screen, but my write-up for this fight, and essentially we agreed on Merab Dvalishvili being the pick, but I did leave a note that O'Malley via KO in round 1 and 2 is very live outcome here, just because that's how he typically will capitalize on these kind of win conditions. Merab's a guy that comes out and builds a pace, but if you can't get into your rhythm, if you can't get the building going, I've thought about like a Frankie Edgar, a guy that when his striking and wrestling's working together, they both look great. When one of them doesn't start working, everything about it looks terrible. And so that for me is the one downside with Merab. But I think at plus money, he was the side. So yeah, I just I'm excited for this one, man. They just met in the middle. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, like I said, I favor him, but it's small. That chance of the nuke is very, very real here. I got small plus money on him. Think he should be a small favorite. So kind of an auto bet in that case. The only case it wouldn't be an automatic bet if it's like maybe some debuting fighters who I don't have a good read on. Then sometimes I maybe won't go with the plus money in that case. But if it's two extremely known commodities like this, I've tape studied them extensively, not just for this fight, but several others. You know exactly what you're getting with them. If you favor a guy needs plus money, you're just a bad bettor if you're not taking it, unless you have some particular red flag. I don't know, maybe the guy's coming off a 2-year ACL injury or something. Okay, in that case. But outside of that, yeah, you got to pull the trigger. A lot of forward pressure to start from O'Malley. That's interesting. More so than usual. He usually kind of floats back and forth.
Merab is talking to the ref. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, he's screaming at him. There's no mouthpiece, I think.
Oh, he was trying to argue with Tim Welch.
Oh.
I just turned on the commentary.
Yeah, I heard Tim Welch.
That's really stupid.
Yeah, I heard Tim Welch I just heard the names of the Cormier or someone say Tim Welch, but I couldn't hear what else he said. Did he say what he was arguing about?
Man,
I have my broadcast
to start here.
I have my broadcast low so it doesn't pick up on the stream. Now O'Malley's more into his typical sort of floating back in between space. He started out.
He just tried to go for a big spin.
Yeah.
Captain Merab. Did you see that? He did a little salute to him. Yeah.
Like Caleb Plant. I noticed Sean O'Malley so far. He's throwing that teep kick, but it looks like he's actually looking for the knee as well. I think he's trying to fool Merab and throw a combination between the teep kick as well as the knee to get him not sure of which one is coming. Like maybe throw some teeps, get Merab to try to charge in and actually throw a knee instead. There's a couple of times where he looked like he was about to go for a teep, but it looked like it was actually going to be a knee instead. And then he ended up giving up on it.
Merab's doing a good job creating forward pressure, but so far he has not been able to press him into the fence or
O'Malley
down the range.
O'Malley just planted his two back feet and crouched a bit like he was going to spring for a flying knee. I definitely think that's going to come at some point. You saw the big knee that he landed on Cheeto, of course.
Oh, that's a good high kick from Merab. As he chased him down, applying that pressure, that was what we didn't see from Irene Aldana when she was chasing all night.
No takedown attempt from Merab so far. I think he's trying to get in closer to avoid that knee. That knee, if lands on basically anybody besides Cheeto Vera, that's a KO. That was unbelievable that Cheeto survived that.
Good inside low kick from Merab. That's going to be a pivotal tool for him in this fight because it's the thing that's closest to O'Malley that he could land as O'Malley's trying to exit.
And O'Malley had the injury to the legs against Cheeto that we mentioned earlier, the injury against Sukumtath, both to the legs.
That was a pretty good connection for O'Malley with the jab.
Yeah,
seemed like Merab decided to stay out of range a little bit. I think he might have gotten his nose busted there.
Yeah, his nose is bleeding bad. or maybe not so bad. His tattoo I thought was blood on his chest for a bit, but I
Yeah.
do think it's bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit busted up. There's a first real committed takedown attempt. Nicely done from Merab. He closed it down, gets the takedown.
Easy.
Sharp.
I'm surprised he took so long to do it. O'Malley was actually finding the range even before just that shot that busted up his nose a bit. He was getting close with some strikes, not big shots, but he was finding the range a bit more. Merab was playing with fire a bit there. Worth noting about Merab, too, he actually lands more takedowns than he has minutes fought. He lands like an average of, I think, 1.17 takedowns per minute. That is absurd. So if that pace continues here, he will land around 30 takedowns. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's probably going to have some regression there, but he did attempt 17 takedowns against Aldo. Aldo, man, one of the best takedown defenders in MMA history, defended all 17. Good job of O'Malley to get back to space. This kind of how Merab fights, again, as we talked about earlier, he's not great at actually maintaining position. It's the up, down, up, down, up, down type of thing. That's why, again, I said earlier as well that O'Malley, if he wins, it's probably because he's kind of losing the minute to minute and then just lands the nuke out of nowhere, because minute to minute is probably going to look like this. Merab getting takedowns, but not actually doing anything with them. Guillotine, uses it to reverse, get in, almost mount. Good job by O'Malley. I think he used butterflies there to shut him off. But like if O'Malley goes out there and nukes him in round 2, that's what I was saying pre-fight. You can't sit here and be like, oh, sour grapes, it was 10-9 Merab in round 1, and then he got rallied on. Like, no, that's how O'Malley wins. It's by losing the minute to minute and then getting the nuke out of nowhere. It can happen at any point here. At least early. Maybe not so much late if he gets worn down, but especially in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. At any point, O'Malley's live for the nuke.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good showing from Merab there in round 1.
Overall, I thought it was solid. I didn't like how he was arguing with Welch right out of the gate. That's weird to do. Stay focused, dude. And then I also didn't like how he took so long for the takedown, and he's been doing some weird thing. He saw at the end, like the mannerisms and stuff. I prefer him to be a little bit more locked down, but overall solid. O'Malley looks extremely calm between rounds here. Not tired at all, just very calm, composed, measured. I actually think that's a very good sign from him, especially considering the opponent he's going against, as we talked about the pace and the volume and the cardio down the stretch. If O'Malley burns himself out too early, whether it's with adrenaline, nerves, or going for too much, that'd be very bad for him. So measured approach from him in round 1, landed some decent strikes when it was on the feet, was getting the better of the striking. And then also very composed in between rounds as well. I think that's a good approach from him to not overexert. How do you score that first round, though?
I think that's a round for Merab, honestly. I thought he did really good work when he got on top. He landed some good ground and pound shots. He went for the guillotine. I thought that was the closest thing to the fight ending sequence. So that would be how I would score it. But I don't, I'm not married to that score. We were here talking, shooting the breeze a little bit. I was checking betting odds. So a couple different things there. Merab did move to minus 140 or so in between rounds there.
Okay. I was going to say, I probably lean towards Merab, but I wonder if the judges, usually they go more towards the guy later in the round versus early, but Merab was losing the early going. He probably stole it at the end. There is, of course, champion bias. We see that a lot. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw championship bias for O'Malley, especially here. I do not think the UFC wants 5-round decisions for Merab as their title holder when they have O'Malley, who they're trying to make the next McGregor.
I feel that for sure. When you look at a guy like Merab, the thing that I like about him is that he doesn't do what a lot of wrestlers do and hold on desperately to people and burn himself out in terms of energy. He is just very good about forcing you to work hard, and then that's it. He's like, I'll make you at an energy deficit, and I know I can keep pushing this pace all night for 25 minutes. And most people don't and can't do that, right? Like they can't push the pace that he can. And so they either have to try and sell out to kill him early, or they need to find a way to, be way more technical than him. because he will keep going to his entries. He will keep going to try and take you down. But this is a spot where O'Malley now has the distance he needs to get off on his explosive offense. He's trying to create angles. He's trying to feint and use his footwork. What do you think O'Malley needs to do in order to dictate right now as Merab continues to pressure and move forward?
He definitely needs to keep focusing on this lateral movement. One thing that he's done in the past, he did it against Cheeto as well.
Excellent takedown. Wow.
Yeah, nice reactive takedown. When he did it in the past, one thing he did in the past against Cheeto Vera, O'Malley, is anytime Cheeto pressured, he would back up. Anytime Cheeto really moved forward with any kind of offense, he would basically lose his forward movement. There was one other fight where he did that too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's been 2 fights where I've noticed it. That he doesn't really do the lateral movement when he gets pressured. And here he's been doing a concerted effort to use the lateral movement. We haven't really seen too much straight back movement from O'Malley so far. The thing with Merab is he kind of has the Khabib approach to the takedowns where he's not very accurate with individual ones. It's usually try, fail, over and over and over throughout the scrambles, eventually get it. Like you were saying, Liam, he doesn't exert himself too much, where you'll see fighters just clinging and just trying to use brute strength, and you end up gassing themselves out in that kind of overhook, underhook position against the cage. He doesn't do that, which is one of the reasons why he has the low success rate sometimes on his takedowns. But the fact that here, what's at 100% success rate so far, that is not a good sign for O'Malley, because again, usually with Merab, it takes multiple efforts to get the takedown. Oh.
Glove grab is actually going to be penalized for once. You got to be kidding me. Jacqueline Amorim is sitting at home going, ha ha.
Yeah, that was so blatant too, and she denied it after too when she was caught in 4K.
Yeah, I love Jacqueline Amorim, and that was bad. She should have just came out and been like, it was in the heat of the moment. I didn't realize I did it. I apologize for it, and it won't happen again. That's what she should have said.
That was an egregious glove grab by O'Malley there. That was insane. I'm glad the ref called it. That was horrendous.
Wow.
I noticed it
dominating right now.
I noticed it live, but I didn't realize it was nearly as bad as it was in the replay. Holy mother of God, that was blatant. I'm actually kind of surprised O'Malley whipped for such a blatant one. That's going to get called. Usually you see the kind of slightly grab with maybe the inside, maybe the wrist. He was like full on. He was like knuckle deep in that glove.
Man.
See, this is what
I'm feeling really foolish for not betting Merab right now. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, it's looking good so far, but he can still get nuked while O'Malley's fresh.
Oh, of course. I just mean in terms of this is what I expected. Like this right here, But
and I was about to say, like, this is what we were talking about with him getting a finish late in the fight. If it's 5 rounds of this, like, there's a real chance
and he could do this all night, man. He really can.
Mm-hmm.
This, like what we're seeing right now, he could do this all night.
As I tweeted before the fight, this is THC versus EPO. Just joking about the EPO, not making a legitimate accusation against Rob, just to be clear. But THC, not so great for your cardio. EPO, very good for your cardio. O'Malley's cardio has looked good generally, but again, he hasn't.
Oh, this is a good attempt from Merab. I don't think he's got enough time to finish it, but what this does, what people miss sometimes is these squeezes that you could do. If you could do it all night, if you can not get tired from applying that pressure. Oh, whoa. Merab is a fool for that, man.
What the fuck was that?
Merab literally stood up with like 2 seconds left in the round and then got punched in the back of the head like an idiot. What is going on, man? What is up with the UFC today? Did they drug their water? Like,
what? He literally stood up, let go of the gi. I thought it was a tap that we didn't see. There was 4 seconds on the clock, and then he not only did that, but he literally turned his back. Like fully turned his back to walk back to the corner. Did he mishear that he thought it was the end of the round? Was the crowd super loud?
Any guess what the live odds are right now?
400 for Merab?
5.
5, okay. Not far off in terms of what they should be. 500-ish, I think, is relatively accurate. A lot of times they're not great with the live betting odds sometimes, especially when you have like the cardio guys like this, where they actually get stronger as the fight goes on and they're going against like a hype train. Sometimes they'll leave the lines kind of close. Yeah, so Merab did the ridiculous arguing early on in the fight, and then he did whatever that was. That was bizarre.
I'm seeing this fight live to end inside the distance is plus 300, and that seems absurd to me at the pace that Merab has been fighting. But
well, if O'Malley wins at this point, it's got to be inside the distance. I don't think he's sweeping 3 rounds here. Oopsies.
huh. I'm at least taking that for a small amount.
My terrible non-studio setup here. I need to get my move done with so I can have my studio back. Normally I have a camera, a computer, and all. I'm just using an iPad now. Shout outs to the now over 5,000 of you, though, who are watching. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Always appreciate any feedback, positive or negative. Just try to keep it constructive so we actually know what to work on. Blind bashing, of course, doesn't help, but we're totally open to criticism, so we know what we need to actually work on and improve for the next stream. Some of you have pointed out a round timer, so you can sync up with us. I'll definitely look into that for the next time we do this.
I always talk about when you're looking at a fight like this, it's about whether you can keep the momentum, whether you can keep hold of the pack, right? He's got the pack right now, but he's got to keep it. And you're seeing some deep breaths from O'Malley, but he could always get confidence if he lands big. I think if Merab can get one more takedown in this round, I think that would be a real pivotal moment for him in this fight, where then it's like up shit's creek without a paddle, right? Nice grab on that single leg. Good defense from O'Malley, but look at Merab just run him down like he's a football player, dude. An absolute marauder.
Good knee. It was legal when he threw it, but props to O'Malley for, ninja choke here? No, it's actually darts. These positions are so brutal when you're up against the fence or like the wall in training like this, and they have you just hunched over, killing your back, putting all their weight on you, and you're trying to prevent a choke from landing. Will says, always appreciate the information and the thoughts. Thank you, Jets. Thank you, Will, for showing up. Glad you're enjoying it. Like we said, this is our first one we've ever done, so I'm sure we'll be rough around the edges in some ways. Definitely room to improve. Hopefully we can keep giving you guys shows that you actually enjoy going forward, though. That's most important. Want to provide actual value and information. Not really been a card that I've really seen too much potential for live bets so far. Usually there's a lot more. See, moments like this are what I get worried about Merab, where he's just kind of getting into this lull, staying on the feet. This is where O'Malley's going to win the fight. If it happens, it's going to be a random nuke out of nowhere. And when Merab is just kind of sitting here waiting for O'Malley to do something, that's not great. I like him to at least make, attempts at the takedown, feints at the takedowns, throw some strikes. This is also a way you can give away rounds, just literally stand and do nothing. There's that knee finally. I thought O'Malley was going to throw it more often. It finally showed its face. I thought it was going to be more part of his game plan based on the looks he was showing early. I guess I was wrong about that, but he did finally throw it, so maybe he throws it some more now. Considering his takedown defense has been pretty non-existent for the most part outside that one that he defended, but still got grabbed a hold of after. Doesn't seem like it'd be a bad idea to maybe start throwing a little desperation with those knees.
Yeah, the one thing is Merab seems to have a really good instinct for grabbing underneath when he throws the kicks and the knees and getting him off balance, even answering back with his own shots. Nice. He tried to go for that snatch single. That was a pretty good job limp legging out of that from O'Malley.
He got that earlier, but he reacted under the strikes both times when he got it. He's, as you said, very good at reacting. Good jab there by O'Malley. Might have been a straight. He was switching stances, I think, during the combinations. Maybe it was a straight, but knee tap attempt there from Merab. Sort of an ankle pick turned into a knee tap. Wow,
better defense now down the stretch from O'Malley.
Yeah, I'm noticing. I wonder if it's because they're sweaty, maybe. Merab, before he would grab a hold of O'Malley and grab a hold of him. Oh, that was a big straight from Sean finally. He would actually grab a hold of O'Malley. Right now, he's trying to grab, but you're seeing his arms are just kind of sliding off of the ankles. Before, it was like he had that solid, but now he's grabbing, and you can see it's just he's not able to actually get the good grip. And so there were like the snatch singles that he tried for. He tried a couple reactive takedowns, but just never was quite able to get a solid grip. So I don't know. There's another big. Oh, and the knee. That's probably an O'Malley rant.
Last round of the fight for O'Malley for sure.
It's probably his 10-9. I don't see how Merab got that. O'Malley landed the knee. He landed a couple of big straights. I think 2 big straights, the knee. I feel like there was one more beyond that too. But definitely an O'Malley round. Like I was saying, that's why I get worried about Merab when he's just sitting in space there, not threatening. He went for the takedowns, but they were kind of half-hearted attempts where he didn't really get the grip. A little bit of a cut on the side of the left eye of Merab. Right now, not too concerning. Could be an issue if it gets bigger and then starts going in, but at least it's not over the eye. And it does look like his nose is a little bit busted. It's normally kind of mashed even before the fight starts. He has just one of those fighter noses. Sean O'Malley has it to an extent too, but it looks like it's a little bit even more now than it was. It's also bleeding from it, which is usually a good sign that it's potentially broken or fractured. So 29-28, O'Malley seems pretty clear to score so far. Maybe, the first round was somewhat close. I guess a bad judge could give it to Sean, but should be pretty clear 29-28 for Merab. He actually, I don't think he's slowing down, but he actually did look a little bit slower in that second round. The overall pace and volume just was kind of not there.
Yeah, it seemed just like when he's able to get the takedowns, he's obviously able to leverage it and look really good. Now O'Malley's starting to rip at the body. Yeah, he's doing a really good job with that.
That is something that Merab has been a bit open to in the past. He doesn't defend great against it. He has crazy cardio, but one way to potentially affect that is do some rib roasting. Again, straight to the body, that time a left. Switch stances for it. That time got the right. So now O'Malley's switching up the stances quite often. It seems to actually be throwing Merab off a little bit. He's threatening with the knee, landed it the one time. It does seem like overall Merab is a bit more hesitant when he's engaging here. He's not really throwing strikes basically at all. O'Malley doing a good job there using the lateral movement, circling off the cage. See right there, Merab went for a charge, and O'Malley actually backed up very quickly, got away from it. Merab was not able to follow up. Then O'Malley lands a big right. Oh, that should be a takedown.
Huge takedown.
That was his first good entry of the last round and a minute and a half. That's the first good entry he had, and he gets it. So that's more what he needs. These reaching for the ankle, and again, the grip slipping off, not going to work. Obviously, striking not working out so great. So he needs to focus more on those reactive takedowns, wait for O'Malley to. Again, I think the worry is here. He's worried that O'Malley's going to throw a jab and then flick the knee up the middle. That's the only thing I can think of anyways for why he didn't shoot more, but round 1 and round 4 now, he did not shoot much of the opening. Looks like Merab's trying to set up an arm triangle potentially here. He looked to be squeezing for it momentarily. And then it looked like he was going to try to push the arm into position. I could see an arm triangle late too for Merab if he can get in position. The fact that round 3 went the way it did is great for O'Malley for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, round on the board. Big difference between being dead in the water down 3-0 and needing a finish versus potentially could, outside shot at a decision now for O'Malley. Wouldn't expect it, but it's possible now. But also, it delayed the onslaught from Merab. If it was another round 2, we might have seen O'Malley much more fatigued here. But he looks totally fresh. This is actually...
he's looking for the arm there.
Yeah, key lock, straight arm bar, let go of it.
He did some pretty good work with the elbows, and that's what opened up the attempts there to pass.
But so far, this has actually been a fairly slow-paced fight by Merab's standards. At this pace, O'Malley very well could have totally fine cardio all 5 rounds. This has been a bit harder round for him. He's not doing as good of a job getting back up. He's actually stuck in half guard. A lot of fighters, positional wrestlers, prefer the half guard over even mount. Randy Couture, a classic example, because he didn't like getting bucked and shucked off. To be honest, I feel like that's kind of more a sign of a lack of skill than anything else. I mean, full mount is...
Yeah, people are getting really good in MMA about bridging off from the bottom mount, but you should be able to flow and follow them to the back or, at least not lose position. Nicely done by Merab with those short shots, ground and pound from Turtle. He's very good at that. That's the position I expected more of is Turtle.
Should be able to get him down here again. drag him down. If you're going for strikes from the mount, definitely easier to get bucked off. But man, go for subs, or at least try to get them to grind in the face with the elbow, get them to turn and take the back. I just feel like if you're a fighter and you're like, I can't stay in mount, I have to use half guard. It's like, kind of says something about your game. Again, it's usually wrestlers who prefer that, not jiu-jitsu players.
Merab is mauling him a little bit in this 4th round. I think this has been a very clear Merab round.
Yeah, this is probably the best round overall for Merab. Second round was good too for him, but this has been more sustained dominance.
Looking for that front headlock again, just like he did to Cejudo.
Hopefully he won't let go of it this time and get punched in the back of the head.
Yeah, that was pretty foolish last time.
Don't need him to get killed by some absurd. Wow, look at that. 61-6 and strikes in round number 4.
Merab is trying to absolutely put it on him right here. Do you see this?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Oh, wow. He's letting him know what time it is. Oh, Merab's got a big smile on his face. He knows.
O'Malley right now definitely looks fatigued. You see him finally leaning up against the fence. I don't know if it's enough that he's going to be still fatigued in the 5th round, but that is definitely something to watch out for. If he comes out like this for round 5, he's screwed. Yeah, look at him on
He looks a bit dejected.
This is not how he was before. Remember before he was calm, eyes closed, straight up posture, like a meditative posture, taking the deep breaths. This is defeatist posture. This is terrible. Look at his face. He looks dead, cardio-wise. Again, very high amount of energy expenditure at the end of the round there, so maybe he catches a second wind. His cardio has looked good overall aside from that. We should probably know early. If Merab gets an early takedown here and can just keep the onslaught going, probably one-way traffic at that point.
Yeah, Merab was coming really aggressive at the end of round 4. I wonder what pace he's going to try and set in round 5.
Yeah. And Rob's up 3 rounds to 1 now. This is what I talked about. Like, the nuke is always possible, or I bet Rob, if he goes out there and gets nuked, something that always could happen, but hopefully it doesn't. Definitely don't need to see him die here. Like, Balboa's over there, dead somewhere.
Poor guy.
We'll have to have a eulogy for him after the fights.
Should we bounce his icon off the screen?
I was starting to wonder
for the last round.
I was hoping he'd come back. I know before he's dealing with like a issue. It's not him. It's just he's.
Of course.
Not like
it's all in jest. It's all in jest.
It's not like a total emergency where he's like actually in danger of dying or anything, but it is something outside of his control, unfortunately. So don't be too mad at him for not showing up for the end of the podcast here. I'll give him till the end of this round. If he doesn't show up again, I'll clear his icon and we can do the post-fight recap.
Sounds like a plan.
So now Merab, minute here into round 5, he has let Sean basically have another minute to rest. It looks like
now he's probably just in self-preservation mode.
I was just about to say
he's up at least 3 rounds. I'd reckon.
Looks like Merab knows he's up 3-1. Looks like he has instructions to be careful. Go for the takedown when it's clearly there. Don't get stupid and run into an.
And there it is.
Yeah, that was actually props to Merab. He faked the overhand right and transitioned right into the takedown. First time he's done that tonight, I believe. Maybe he did it one of the other times on his singles, but that was a great thing that I don't believe he had done before. That is something I love to see from fighters when they are sticking to somewhat of a repetition for the first however many rounds, and then they mix up totally with the angle, their approach. That is something that you see from the best of the best. Those in-fight mid-adjustments, so incredibly important. 38-2 in strikes, round 5 so far. If he can get on top,
I can't believe I cowered it out of Merab. The New York boy is absolutely teaching them how to wrestle once again.
I did bet Merab, so I'm trying to.
I know you guys killed it.
Refrain from counting my chickens before they hatch, dude.
Exactly.
Mirsad Bektik against Darren Elkins, like 10-7 first round, like 10-8 second round, winning the 3rd round, gets knocked out with like a minute left. I was just like, That's one of the craziest rallies I've ever lost as a sports bettor. Oh, good straight from Sean. He's had the most success when he is switching stances. That was in round 3. He switched stance and threw Merab off, it seemed, actually won that round. And then here, when he just landed that straight again, it was after the stance switch. He's also thrown strikes while switching stances mid-combination. Merab almost seems like he's totally fine to just give away this round, counting on having those 3. He really should have the first round, but boy, that champion bias is a thing in UFC history. There was a good attempt by Merab, but good job by O'Malley to limp out of it. And again, it was kind of what we saw in round 3, where he tried to grab the ankle and just doesn't seem like he can grab the ankle at this point. It seems like there's too much slickness there with the sweat. He was able to grab it early, but not now. That's what was so incredibly impressive to me about Islam against Poirier when he got the takedown in round 5 off the ankle. Like, dude, that was when they were soaked in sweat.
Oh, shit. I think he might be hurt.
Is he actually hurt or is he faking?
I honestly couldn't tell.
I think he's actually
hurt. It was a
hurt.
very weird sequence, though.
I think he's actually hurt. It just was so dramatic the way he showed it.
Oh.
It was so dramatic that I almost thought he was playing possum for a second. He's covering the body hard. He's hurt to the body. Sean needs to fake to the head, or fake to the body and go to the head. O'Malley in the sequence right after, see how much every time he throws, literally Merab's like this. If he gets a takedown, it's a wrap. This could decide the fight right here. Good job by O'Malley of getting away. Goes for that knee again.
That liver shot got him, man.
Yeah, it was
that teep to the liver got him.
I was going to say the teep kick to the liver. I love the teep kick as someone tall. Again, I'm 6'8", so I always have a height and reach advantage. I'm surprised that it's not more of an element of O'Malley's game. I think I was saying earlier on the broadcast when we talked about Zellhuber that I don't understand why fighters just haven't basically straight up copied John Jones' game. The long strikes, the teep kicks. I was going to say though, Merab, he took a spinning back kick to the guard. He covered up. Thankfully, it was right after he got hurt to the body. Total full power spinning back kick up against the cage by O'Malley, and Merab thankfully blocked it. If that landed, might have been a deal breaker there. All right,
Merab
so
Dvalishvili, world champion.
So 3-2 Merab. It should cash here.
He's the world champion in my eyes. I'll tell you that.
Should be 3-2 pretty clearly. We will see, though. My only bets of the card should cash here, thankfully, but never know with these judges. Official bets, we had a bunch of other stuff. I have to look at what the results for those are. We started out down, so I don't know if we rallied enough. Still been a great summer, of course, overall, up around over 24 units, like I mentioned earlier, up over 50 units on the year, 300 units, over 300 units long term, all third-party tracked and verified. All those are available on the patreon.com/Furious Fight Picks link that you see there on the screen, but I do believe it was a losing night for us on the UFC. I have to double check to be certain, though. Did win on Bellator earlier today, won on Dana White Contender.
I won $5.
Yay! Yeah, your bet's like almost dead broke even, right? It was like almost exactly.
It was literally, it was so unfortunate because I had Chira's ITD, Chira's money line.
Dude.
Both of them looked like decent enough spots. I was like, you know what? The read's on point. It's all good. Then I have Waregi round 1, Waregi sub, and the fight not to go the distance. And it was Waregi getting subbed in the first round. I had the right tool by the wrong end. You feel me?
Yeah. It is taking a bit.
But still, I was glad to get the fight not to go the distance. That was a big plus money position, so I was happy about that.
It's taken a bit for the decision. We saw that earlier in the card. It was the 10-8 that took a bit for it. This is a split even. That would be terrible.
Dude, if they took this from Merab, I would probably have to pick it.
That would be a robbery if they gave it to Merab. The first round was close enough that it could be wrong, but not close enough that he could ever argue for Sean.
Let's hear him. Yep, it's over. 49-46.
Yep, unanimous. That's a wrap. No.
New York boys taught him how to wrestle once again. God bless Merab Dvalishvili. He is a world champion. Unbelievable. What a guy. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. That's awesome. I love this dude.
You know, we cashed 2 official bets on Merab, but like I said, I got to check the record to see what the totals are for it. Third-party tracking site is so slow to update; it drives me crazy. Sometimes there'll be like multiple fights going before it updates with the previous result.
Man, it is the year of the Georgian warrior. Shout out to Ilia Topuria. Shout out to Merab Dvalishvili. Georgia is here, and they are taking over.
Worth noting, Merab said that he will never fight Topuria. He'll never move up to fight him for 2 reasons. One, the Georgia thing, but also he said apparently Ilia just destroys him in sparring.
Bro, does that surprise you? Doesn't surprise me.
I mean,
Merab is an energy bunny. Like, he'll keep going all day, but I think Ilia would probably put him in a body bag in 7.5 to 12 minutes. And I say that as a guy who acknowledges, like, the longer it goes, the dicier it's going to get, like the Josh Emmett fight. But, dude, Josh Emmett got his face rearranged in that fight. And also, like, the one thing I would say is Merab normally has such a huge grappling edge. And in that fight, he might have the wrestling edge, but I think he could put himself in a bad situation, get guillotined, get rolled up in a choke, and find himself on bottom position for once.
I wonder, was he talking about strict striking sparring, or, you know, some fighters will do kind of the MMA sparring where you can grapple. If it's strict sparring in terms of boxing or striking, obviously Merab gets completely his ass handed to him there. But if it was MMA sparring where they could actually do takedowns, I'm not surprised that Topuria got the better of it, but for him to destroy him in that case, that would kind of surprise me. I think at least Merab could do something to still lose, but at least not be completely destroyed. Topuria versus Holloway is a fun one. You and I were both big on Topuria against Volkanovski as a dog. Very confident it was going to be a round 2 knockout. It was a round 2 knockout. And I'm someone who's bet the hell out of Volk going back several fights. Even before he was a champion, I was betting him in his very first few UFC fights, saying how great he was. Terrible, terrible dynamic there. Not only the style matchup, but the point in time that Volkanovski was fighting Topuria off of the Islam fight and all that. Much different case now with Topuria and Holloway. I have to say, though, I have not officially made my pick, but I think right now I'm actually leaning towards Holloway this time.
Ooh, interesting. I have to think about it more, but it's a tough fight.
If anyone's going to crack that chin, though, it's going to be Topuria.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I really have some worries for Max going into that one because Justin Gaethje. Yeah, and Justin Gaethje is, like, for me, a guy who he's given a lot of credit and he's very highly respected and he deserves a lot of those accolades, but also he's a guy that's taken a ton of damage and I think he's on the back 9 and I think Ilia is on the rise. So for me, that the stock that he gets from that win, I think maybe a little overrated. And just go back and look at Volkanovski. I mean, I bet Volkanovski huge against Max Holloway in the 3rd fight because everybody was telling me like, no way Max loses to this guy again. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it seems to me like Max might be regressing a little bit. And then Max went out there and got dummied. So that for me is the dangerous one here. But he looked like a renewed version of himself at 155. For me, the problem is it was at 155, right? And now he's back at 145.
I hate the
danger. You remember the weight cuts he had where he was delusional on television.
Against Volkanovski, like the sunken in eyes and stuff. He looked like death, and then moving back up and down too. He looked great at 155. He looked like he actually put on weight this time, unlike when he moved up before. And all the more reason it could be harder for him to drop back down. Also, chin obviously was good there. Did get dropped by Gaethje. I actually didn't think he got dropped. I thought he got tripped, but he said after, no, he got knocked down there. So Gaethje not as hard of a hitter as Topuria. Potentially maybe Max Holloway, especially with the additional weight cut. that chin could get cracked here, but currently why I'm leaning towards him is we've seen Topuria, his defense is not strong. He can get roughed up. He doesn't have a great chin himself. He does have the big power, but he's either going to need to crack Max and hurt him, or maybe not necessarily visually rock him, but hurt him to the point where Max feels hurt that he doesn't want to engage as consistently. Because Max's key to the victory is punches and bunches. If Topuria can get some big strikes going that deters them from those punches and bunches, that is his path to the victory outside of not just obviously the KO.
Absolutely. I think the grappling's an interesting dynamic there as well, because Max Holloway has underrated grappling. It's very good, but I do think to myself, like, who's better at wrestling and grappling? Like, probably Ilya, you know?
Yeah. So on paper anyways, definitely the submission advantage is for Topuria. Will it actually translate in practice to a sub? I don't know about that, but certainly in practice, especially if he can rock Holloway. I guess they are not interviewing O'Malley. I guess he just bailed.
He dipped, huh?
Yeah, he died like Balboa. I guess I'll remove Balboa from the screen like O'Malley's been removed from the arena. Hopefully everything's good with Balboa. I'm sure he'll be around next time to do things the full way through. Like I said, not his fault. He's dealing with something outside of his control today that popped up randomly. It was midway through the prelims when it popped up.
Technology's the son of a gun, my man. You know that. So all love to Balboa. He'll be back next time, and we appreciate him rocking with us.
Yeah, he'll be a good contributor here. As for, I guess, they're showing John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Such a pathetic matchup. I can't believe that we're still going through this after all that time. If that one had got delayed last year, a year ago, we would actually be done with that, but Dana White just insists on it. I guess we can transition now into our post-fight thoughts here. I'll do a somewhat short post-fight recap since we were live for the entire main card already. Overall thoughts on the Merab performance against O'Malley? Obviously good stuff generally, but anything specific that you want to outline or cover?
Merab continues to come up short in terms of the finishing department, but he's very, very good. He's a dangerous guy. I think that I honestly didn't hear that part of the speech because we were live on the show. So I'll go back and listen to what all Merab had to say. I saw them showing Umar on the screen. I mean, I do think Umar's been fast tracked, no doubt about it, but it's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, right? That's not a huge surprise to me. But I think to myself, a guy like Umar probably next up in line, and there's a lot of fun matchups now waiting in the wings at bantamweight. My thing is, what is next for O'Malley? I think that's a difficult question to answer, and maybe Henry Cejudo. I think that's probably the next best alternative, right? Guys that got owned by Merab, square off,
Does Cejudo have 2 losses in a row now, though?
He might be, but there's the inner Arizona rivalry. I think there's some good heat to that. And by the way, Henry said he was going to lose this fight. He said this guy can't get up from bottom. I'm hearing all these reports from inside his training camp. Yo, Henry got dunked on his show this week, but then what did he have? Receipts.
To credit to O'Malley, who's normally just a complete charisma vacuum, and as a charisma vacuum myself, takes one to know one. I can tell when someone else says. If you heard his cringy stuff at the weigh-ins, that was a perfect example of it. When he popped onto Cejudo and bashed him and then bounced, that was actually pretty funny.
Absolutely, man.
In terms of Merab going forward, I mean, let me pull up the rankings here against the other fighters in the division. He just has such an incredibly rare skill set with the way that he's able to weaponize cardio and pace. We've seen fighters do that in the past. Max Holloway, to an extent, does that, but not to such a pure result that Merab does, where it is almost like legitimately only his cardio and pace that wins him his fights. Struggles with the wrestling sometimes, doesn't do too much with the striking, but just eventually just wears guys down. John Jones, that was actually a considerable part of his success in his career as well. People talk about John Jones like he was this incredibly super dominant fighter every single time. That's not the case. Obviously, people know about the Reyes fights, the Santos fights, which were competitive. But even aside from that, go back and watch other fights of his, even like the Rampage one back in John Jones' first title run. A lot of his fights start out very close because neither fighter is really doing much. John is neutralizing him from range with jabs, teeps, and frames, not letting him close the distance much, but also not doing much himself in terms of offense with the strikes or the takedowns. But then Round 3 comes along. They're getting a little bit tired from the body shots, the leg work, the work with the kicks. And then John Jones now starts turning up the volume. Then he starts actually going for the takedowns. Like Rampage stuffed all the takedowns, avoided all the good strikes up until round 4. That's finally when John Jones got things going and eventually got the tap. So John Jones, arguably the GOAT out there, he was a guy who actually was not all that effective, really, from the early going against other elite level of competition. It took more the down the stretch cardio and weaponization of pace in that. That's very much what seems to be in line for Merab here. Obviously, he's a bit different of a style overall than Jones, but he is one of the few fighters like a Jones where he can purely weaponize those skills.
Absolutely, man. I think that Merab comes from a long line, a long tradition of great New York wrestlers, and he put it on display today in a variety of facets. The game planning, the mental acuity, the toughness, the focus, everything was on point. God bless him for it.
Yeah, Sharks fan in the chat asked, what was up with Herb trying to involve himself in the main event? I didn't hear, because I have my broadcast so low so it doesn't come over the screen. I didn't hear exactly what was going on with like the Tim Welch thing. I guess, we kind of heard it afterwards. There was, I don't know what the hell happened with Merab letting go and then turning his back. But again, I've not heard, the actual audio. Maybe the commentators pointing out something that gives greater context.
I think that comment is based on late in the 5th round. He was like yelling at Merab basically to like present himself. And Merab was like, fuck off, and just didn't do it because, at the end of the day, he was up on the cards. There's nothing you could do. You could warn him for timidity, but it was essentially like him just involving himself where he didn't need to. And that's what Shark, I think, is talking about. And I agree with you. It was literally just him doing too much. And maybe he had a bet on O'Malley by KO. He was trying to give himself a little backdoor Leon Edwards situation, and he couldn't get it.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't hear the commentary or anything or the ref at all, so I missed that. That makes sense, so if that's what was going on. Mark Goddard's a guy who tries to get seemingly involved a lot in fights, more than he should, but I think overall he's actually generally a very high-quality ref. But he used to be pretty bad, actually, back in the day of getting involved in fights. Watching live, I didn't feel like Herb was particularly bad. I thought he actually did a good job. Was it him who called the glove grab in the co-main event? Did he ref that? Usually don't ref that back.
I can't remember who ref the co-main event now that you ask, honestly. It hasn't been that long, and I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, either way, I thought the refs actually generally with the non-stoppages throughout the night, getting the glove grab, I thought they were very good in those regards. Overall, I guess Herb handled the weird arguing with the coroner and then letting go. He handled those properly.
It was Mark Smith in the co-main event. I just went back on the broadcast.
Okay, there you go.
That's why it was not a memorable refereeing performance. God bless him, though.
Based on what you said, though, about round 5, I definitely agree with you there. Like, don't press a fighter when he's up about to be 4 rounds to 1 to go out there and put himself at risk. Like we were saying, when the fight was wrapping up, like 3 rounds to 2 at worst for Merab, even if you give the first round some sort of bad decision for O'Malley. So I don't see why you're trying to force a fighter to basically try and get himself KO'd a couple minutes left in a world title shot that he's about to cruise into. So overall, I thought the reffing was good. In terms of Merab going forward, I was going to look up the UFC rankings here. Sorry, 1 second. I do agree with you, though, that O'Malley, what's next for him is interesting. I don't know if they give him something that's a bit easier, try to get him rushed right back to the title shot, or if they give him more of a other kind of top guy, like they would a typical former champion. A lot of times when a guy loses their belt, they give him a tough fight next time, and one of 2 things happens. Either that champion wins again, he already has name value, and then he gets his another title shot, or that guy loses, but he just was the champion, so he still has name value. His stock is still high in the fans' eyes, and then the contender that just beat him now gets one over on him. So generally, that's what they do, is have the champion fight another contender after, but considering it's O'Malley and they probably want to protect it a bit, probably not be too wise to do that. The UFC rankings don't want to load for me. I'm trying, I promise.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a case of either we give O'Malley Henry Cejudo or we do the Jan rematch. I think Dan in the chat was pretty on point with that. That's a good call.
Oh, Jan rematch would actually be very good. I agree with that. Jan has been...
Let's do it over 5.
What's that?
Let's do it over 5.
Yeah, why not?
Make it a main event.
Got to be a main event. I mean, I guess maybe they put O'Malley as a co-headliner of a pay-per-view. Maybe they don't put him back on the fight night events after this, but That I would say of all the ones you mentioned, the Cejudo one makes sense too. I was going to mention before, yes, Cejudo is off the losses, but it's kind of the dynamic I just mentioned. Cejudo was a name, obviously. He had the double champ and everything. If he goes out there and beats O'Malley, they can put him right back in a title shot. Maybe not necessarily against Merab, but they can put him in the title picture at least. Have him fight another top contender to maybe earn the title shot, even though no one's hankering for that rematch. Or if O'Malley wins, then he gets one over on a named fighter that could get him right back into a title shot. So I would say the Jan one does a little bit less than Cejudo at this point, just because it seems like people are just totally down on Jan at this point. But either one of those I think would be good and actually make logical sense as well. Who would you favor in those?
I think I would favor Jan over 5 rounds, but he's been a little bit less durable recently. He's been getting hurt a little bit more inside and outside the cage. I think that's something to be weary of in a potential rematch. Also, O'Malley just put together a whole camp for Merab, so potentially you see some improvements over time in the takedown defense. I think that we saw Merab has a better pace than Jan when it comes to the wrestling scrambles. Yeah. So that's something that, you could definitely see leveraged against him, So for me, those are the interesting facets. It's can O'Malley make any substantive adjustments to a grappling threat again? Because it was pretty 50-50 on the feet with Jan, to tell you the truth. Like, they both had great moments, but it was his ability to scramble back up to his feet and prevent those takedowns from being super meaningful that was a big difference maker. The thing about Merab, when he gets people down, he makes it count. He lands, whether it's the hardest ground and pound you've ever seen at times or just doing work. He's always doing work.
When I watched that fight live, I had bet Jan as a small favorite. I thought live it was a terrible decision. Competitive relatively, but a very bad decision. When I went back and rewatched it, it was actually a lot more competitive than I thought. Still definitely think it was the wrong decision, but not like straight robbery territory or anything like that. If they were to rematch over 15 or 25, I don't know if that would change my opinion that much. I would say 25 does tend to favor Jan more. Because Sean O'Malley is getting more of an early knockout type.
Jan tends to be a builder, like he likes to get some time under his belt.
And Jan does have a bit of an kind of a shade of the game of Merab in the sense that he's durable. He puts a high pace. He kind of out cardios opponents. He sometimes has competitive fights early that turn more dominant down the stretch. So I would say in that sense, 25 minutes favors him. But the way that we saw O'Malley threatening late here, 25 minutes does give O'Malley longer time to get the finish as well. But man, that's a really tough. I think O'Malley certainly improved significantly more than Jan has since the first fight. I honestly don't know who I would pick there. Again, I bet Jan, not only picked him, but bet him the first time. Thought he won the first time, but I just think the improvements are quite significant from O'Malley since then. The Cejudo fight is interesting because I do not think that Cejudo has looked as good in his return as he did beforehand when he was the double champ and all that. He has sort of an awkward striking style. He's not great at closing the distance. And he has been open to getting hit with straights, something that O'Malley would have an easier time probably landing on him than even Merab. As for O'Malley next, or Merab next, I suppose they're trying to do the Umar fight because that's what they're trying to do on the broadcast. Again, you and I didn't hear, but apparently, the chat said that he got ducked there, Umar. Thoughts on that fight if they do happen to make it, though? Somewhat sort of mirror images of each other in a way.
Yeah, not an easy one to call. I think the more technical grappler will be Umar. I think the more durable fighter is Merab, just based on what we've seen so far. But I also think the guy who's probably like a little bit faster and more lethal with the strikes is Umar. He put Hany Barcelos in the box. Nobody saw that coming, and it was kind of a meme-ish punch, but still, it just shows he's got natural power, and he's a long enough guy that he can kind of create those big, impactful moments, especially when he catches people in collisions. But if it's just a pure grappling and wrestling match, I mean, it's not an easy one for me to call by any means. I would tend to lean towards maybe Merab slightly on pace, but again, do I feel convicted about that opinion? No. I think he could definitely make some mistakes there that cost him, and it's not going to be as free to wrestle a guy like Umar.
Yeah, it's a very interesting style matchup because, like you said, to an extent, they're kind of mirror images of each other, close enough that we could see a lot of neutralizing in that one. Like, I don't think Merab is going to ragdoll him with the cardio and pace and wrestling like we saw before. Saw this fight, for example. I think we'll probably see a lot of neutralization, time stuck in the clinch. I don't know who I'm picking yet, so don't hold me to this. But my very, very early lead off the top of my head would be, in that situation, Merab's cardio and pace might be the difference down the stretch. Obviously, Umar is good with the cardio himself, but dude, Merab, some of the performances we've seen recently, not so much this one, but some of the recent ones, this dude has looked absolutely unreal in terms of the cardio and pace. Anything to add to this one before we move on to the co-main event?
I'm cool.
As for the co-main event, interesting one there, Shevchenko, and as I mentioned while the fight was going on or about to wrap, she's now basically won almost all of the fight against Grasso. The first fight, she was on her way to winning, got a rear naked choked or neck crank, whatever, is on the chin out of nowhere. The second fight, she should have won a decision, gets the crazy 10-8 against her in the 5th round, ends up being a draw, but should have won the majority of that one as well. And then this one, I mean, this was clean house, not even competitive. This looked like Shevchenko when she was at the dominant champion reign that she was on versus Grasso when she first came to the UFC. This was pro versus the amateurs.
Yeah, there's really not much to say. Alexa Grasso didn't show up. She didn't do anything. There's nothing to report on that side. Attempted a couple subs off her back, spent the whole night laying on her back. Didn't do that much to try and get up, I felt. So, yeah, it was a really disappointing outing, really dispiriting performance. I don't know what to say except the Mexican people don't have much to cheer for tonight,
Yeah, bad night for them. I'm curious how Shevchenko looks going forward because, again, she had shown real signs of regression in her recent bouts, not just the Grasso one. And I'm curious if this is just the stylistic matchup maybe favors her a bit here, or if she actually turned back the clock. I'm not quite sure. I feel like
she got on drugs, my brother. But we could say that out loud, or we could just think it. But I mean, she looked visibly in the best shape of her life, and she's 36. So
yeah, maybe some extra post-USADA supplements are in the bloodstream now. Never know. But yeah, very curious to see how she looks next time out. Grasso, there's obviously not a lot of great takedown offensive fighters in female MMA. There's not a lot of great takedown defenders either in female MMA. But Shevchenko, not one of the better takedown landers. And Grasso, I mean, I'm trying to think of a polite way to say her takedown defense was complete and utter garbage. Did she defend any takedown in that fight? Did she defend literally one?
I don't know, but didn't feel like it.
No, as someone in the chat said, Chef seemed cyborg-like strong defending those early subs. Dude, she looked so much stronger than Grasso from the get-go. Clinch, grappling, top position, scrambles, defending subs. This looked like, dude, levels. Again, whoever was in the chat said she big sistered her. That is the way to put it. In every way, just basically dominated. Even on the feet, she didn't do anything. Grasso actually lost on the feet. Shevchenko landed the best shots, the best counters, the best initiating shots, everything. As far as going forward, who would the next fight be for Shevchenko? Did the rankings finally load for me? Here we go.
I think it's probably Benon Firo. She was the backup fighter tonight.
Yeah.
And I think that, outside of that, you've got a Macy Barber, a Rose Namajunas, all waiting in the wings.
It just drops down. The quality drops down so far in women's MMA. The top 2-3 are great in every division, and then drops down quite a bit. You have these fighters, you're like, okay, these are the real contenders for the belt. It's I don't know. Personally, I've given up on Rose ever being the champion again. Macy Barber maybe at some point in the future. Not ready yet, though. The Minot fight could be interesting, though. Obviously, the movements might actually be not the best fight if they're both just circling endlessly there and avoiding the fight. But, yeah, very, very interesting turn of events. The second fight between them was, again, Shevchenko looked better than expected, Grasso worse, and then to an even greater extent here. So Grasso going forward, I think it's very safe to say the blueprint is written on her. She has a ton of fights now, including in the UFC. Was the champion, wrong side of 30 now. This woman has literally no takedown defense. It does not matter who she's fighting. Just no resistance, none. So maybe she can fight, some particularly good style matchups to get back to the title somehow. But it seems like along the way, at some point, she's just going to be facing fighters who can grapple. I just don't see her getting by it at this point. I mean, this was the worst grappling effort that I've ever seen from her. And again, the first 2 fights from Shevchenko, 4 takedowns each. She should have known to be aware of the grappling going in this, and simply was not. As for the featured fight, we had Diego Lopez against Brian Ortega. Definitely 2 fighters on different trending directions there. Obviously, Ortega seems to be on the way out. He did put on a more spirited effort than I thought in some ways, but I don't see him ever being much of a contender in the future. I'm curious your thoughts on Diego Lopez long term. I certainly have some thoughts in my own.
It's probably not going to work out based on what we're seeing. He goes out there and he takes a ton of risks, but I mean, he hits very hard. He's got a lot of power in his hands. He's willing to keep taking the damage, but I do think he can be taken down, and I also think he can be hurt badly and late in fights. So for me, he did a great job tonight, but I just thought we kind of saw a diminished version of Brian Ortega. I thought that Ortega won the second round, but I'll rewatch it. Obviously, it was a very close round relative to the other rounds, which were clear. So, yeah. But also, I do got to get going in the next few minutes. So if there's any specific questions you want me to hit before I get out of here, please hit me with them rapid fire, and I got you, brother.
We can wrap it up after this fight. Any thoughts on Ortega before you get out of here?
I think it's not a great look for him right now. At 155, maybe he looks refreshed and renewed. I hated the idea of this matchup for him because I didn't like him cutting back to this weight class, right? And when you look, he had said like, yeah, my future's at 155. When a fighter's saying that and then they rebook this fight, it's just like,
yeah,
that means he doesn't want it. They want it, and Lopes wants it. So for me, that was the telling signal there.
My thoughts on Lopez long term. I was talking to someone pre-fight about this too. I thought he was going to win this fight. Obviously, picked him and stuff. Did not bet him, but I thought, regardless of if he won this fight, even in dominant fashion, that I think his future is limited. He has good offensive striking. This was all my thoughts before the fight, which I haven't really changed of after. Maybe even more strongly feel this way. Striking defense, real concern. He does have some good offense, of course, but he's more of an opportunistic striker, not a great minute-to-minute round winner, as we saw. Wrestling remains not particularly strong on either side. Good in the scramble, great subs, of course, but there's so many fighters like that reach like top 10, maybe top 5, but you have to have more to your game, more consistency, more of an ability to dictate the location of the fight if you actually want to be an elite level fighter. You can't just hope that your fighter's a fool and follows you down and you can triangle them, or hope they don't capitalize on other certain opportunities that the dude is constantly giving. So I thought before this fight that his future was top 5 type of guy. I'm sure he'll be top 5 now after beating number 3 Ortega. Lopez was number 13 before this, so he'll probably replace Ortega at number 3. But division is top heavy, and I don't see him having the skills to at least consistently beat the high end opposition. Now, of course, very dynamic with his finishing ability. I'm not going to say he can't catch one of them at some point. Absolutely can. But in terms of consistency, I don't see him like fighting for the title, winning the title, and reigning and beating elite level guys one after another. In the case of the other way here, Ortega, I agree with you 100%. I was going to say as well, move up to 155. Maybe he can actually bulk up a little bit, put on some extra weight. He's fought at 155 in the past. So maybe, at that division, he'll be a bit more comfortable. Maybe the added weight cut that he's having at 145 is affecting his chin and contributing to the durability issues. So Ortega, I hate to say it, but we kind of got to wait and see what he does even at that division before I can confidently say this dude can even compete with the elite level anymore. He looked genuinely awful here. He kind of rallied a little bit because he survived, but I would say this is probably his worst overall performance, even though he's had other, losses, of course. I just thought, generally speaking, this is some pretty lifeless stuff from him. Closing thoughts on the first 2 fights real quick before we get out of here?
The Zellhuber-Ribovich fight was fantastic.
Very fun.
Both guys look good. I thought Zellhuber had done a lot of the right things throughout the fight, but Ribovich never stops coming forward. He never stops throwing. He's very intense. I was disappointed by the lack of finishes. Ode Osborne and Ronaldo Rodriguez, with all due respect, had no business on the main card. They had a good fight, but they're just not main card level UFC fighters at all, either one of them. So, that for me was a little bit disappointing, but overall, at least he got one on the board for Mexico, right? Because nobody else did. So
I thought the card started out very strong. Prelims were pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good, especially by prelim standards. Not too many snoozers there. Main card, absolute bangers back-to-back to start. As we talked about midway through the card, I was like, I feel like this is a pretty good card so far. One of the better ones this year. And then remember, we get to the co-main event, and I was like, hopefully I'm not jinxing it. We do have some potentially boring ones on tap. And yeah, the last 2 definitely happy to win on Marab for my bet, but not a particularly exciting fight aside from the enjoyment of the winning the bet. Not too much enjoyment came from that fight. So overall, I thought it was kind of an above average card, but nothing that great, especially considering all the hype and stuff. The chat seems to be pretty pissed at people saying horrible and trash and stuff, but I didn't think it was that bad, of course. But unfortunately, this is the state we're at with the UFC in 2024. They're never going to get some super stacked cards again, like we saw with UFC 100 or 200. We're not going to get even big mega hyped events like this that they fill out, even just the main card. So you kind of got to adjust your expectations from the UFC, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, thing I'm most concerned about, regardless, is always, of course, winning money, winning bets. So as long as we're winning long term, that's, of course, what I care about most, regardless of where the UFC product's at. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the card yourselves. Hopefully you enjoyed our debut of this watch along. Again, first time doing it, a little rough around the edges. I'm not even in my studio yet. I will have a much better backdrop in the future. The next one of these we'll be doing will be October 5th for the next UFC pay-per-view, 307. That's Poatan and Roundtree. Should be a fun one there in the main event. Again, these will be every card now for the pay-per-views of the UFC, starting live at the 10 p.m. Eastern time for the main card start time. Also going forward, we'll be having live bets for every UFC event, including the fight nights and including the prelims as well. Live bets, as well as all of our official bets and other content aside from the watch-along, is available exclusively at the link you see at the bottom of your screen. Again, patreon.com/FurysFightPicks. Check it out for a ton of other content besides what you see here and besides the bets as well. We will be back for a slew of content coming up next week. There is no official UFC event, but there will still be Dana White Contender Series, which we'll have official bets on. Also be some other MMA the weekend, which we will have official bets on as well. And then we return the next week with an official UFC card again. So busy schedule coming up here, not really any breaks. Again, break from the UFC, but we're still going to have bets every single week. So no weeks off over at Fury's Fight Picks. Also have some other content as well. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this all, but please, if you do have any feedback, even constructive criticism, please share it. We'd love to know what we need to do to improve. But otherwise, until next time, for Liam and Balboa, who may be dead somewhere, we're not quite sure what happened to him, I'm Luca Fury, and thank you for watching.